It's nice. Enjoy it. It's always too short, though. Right, get away from some. I am like Sal, just to. No, this weather just.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Westerly Planning Board this evening for Tuesday, December 2nd. The time is 6 p.m. Begin the meeting this evening with roll call and attendance. Present this evening is myself, Matthew O'Neill, Vice Chairman Jean Gagne. Members present this evening are Christopher Lawler, Perry Kellogg, and James Nicholas. Town staff present this evening include our Administrative Officer, Town Planner Nancy Latendra, our Minute Taker Chloe Chanel, and our Assistant Solicitor for Planning. Oh, I take it back. And our Secretary, Derek Lombard, and our Assistant Solicitor for Planning and Zoning this evening will be James Murray, sitting in for Scott Levesque. Oh, James Murphy. See, I did it wrong after I even confirmed it, and I did it wrong. There you go. First order of business on the agenda this evening is approval of minutes. We have no approval of minutes for this evening. Next order of business is changes to the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda from any members of the board this evening? Administrative staff? All right, hearing none, we can move on to our first order of old business, item E1, Capital Improvement Program. This is a report on current projects and recommendations from the subcommittee, discussion and continuance to December 16th for referral to the town manager. Mr. Gagne? I want to thank the subcommittee for their hard work putting this together for us and their presentation. And thank the town manager for his efforts working with the subcommittee to walk them through everything in the budget.
Okay, just the first thing is the three of us got together at James's house, who was kind enough to host us, and we worked through going through all the capital items. The approach was, we looked at the ordinance, we looked at the requirement for the $63,000 threshold, and we also looked at any particular items that were no spending this year. So if it was no spending this year, we didn't spend a lot of time on that, obviously, logically. We met with the town manager, we took tours of facilities, we met with the superintendent of schools and his head of facilities, and we're extending, we were told to communicate with the superintendent. They would like to have any planning board members who are available on a Tuesday. If we're available, we let them know the time for a tour of the new school. So I think that would be good for us, and we do too. So we're gonna go through the process. We're gonna we have a summary screen. My colleagues and I are here, will talk about it. James is gonna talk a little bit about our approach.
All right, thank you, John. So first off, as John said, we met. It was a full working day right through lunch, 7 or 8 hours going through these near 70 proposals. So just for the sake of our discussion here tonight, we want to try as much as is possible to keep on track. Maybe you can help us with that, Mr. Chair. So yeah, as John said, there were a number of items that we had questions on. There were a number of items which were below a certain threshold, and there were a number of items which we, wanted to discuss tonight with the board, and we had comments on which we'll go through here tonight.
So the first thing. Yeah. Ready. So the first item is, and Perry's going to talk about that, is items that didn't meet the threshold. They've been all organized, and we're going to distribute this to everyone later on, so you have it. So these are the various items, your stuff. You can talk to that.
We didn't give them a list, this list though.
No, they don't have that.
Okay.
It's on the screen.
Oh, it's on the screen. Okay, yeah. So basically, this is just the list of anything that had no request or anything that did not meet the threshold of the 63,000. So not necessarily that it didn't have importance, it just didn't meet the threshold for needing to be considered. So these we sort of put to the side. So I don't know if there's anything here that anybody wants to talk to.
Jump in.
We can.
So if you look at capital request number one, prior year funding is $25,000. There's no funding proposed for 26, 27, 27, 28, 29. Town manager had to put this on here, I think, just for the sake of due diligence. So we kind of, what we're talking about, this threshold is a $63,000 threshold, which is the technical requirement to have it as a capital improvement item before us. Anything that's under that, or there wasn't request for funding, for the sake of, again, to my earlier point, for the sake of keeping things on track here, we're kind of just gonna go,
Right.
just skip over those. That's the spreadsheet you're seeing here. Additionally, there were a number of items that we found or felt as though were not necessarily capital improvement items, should more be in an operating budget. And are those, we got the.
And just as a point here, I think when the town manager came before us and some of these were carryovers, like I know
Yeah.
the HVAC one, he said that 25 is sort of the remainder of the budget carried over
Yep.
for
Right.
stuff like that. So it was part of a larger capital improvement before, but not necessarily new project going forward. So that's
So-
why it's there.
So if you look at what's highlighted here to that point, the total project was 27,930.
Mhm.
But this year, the spending is only 2,900.
Yep.
So it didn't meet the threshold of
Correct.
the form. So
Understood.
it doesn't mean the top one, the $25,000, that's just left over. That
Yeah.
was left over from the project when they were working on the HVAC. So again, there's no spending here. So that's all, that'll all be in the sheets that's contained in here and so we just move those aside.
Yep.
And we went through a worksheet and we took in, and in some cases, we rescored based on the ordinance. So the departments have scored some of these, but some of the scores you're gonna see are different than what the departments had. And that was based on conversations between ourselves having to do with the town ordinance and where we thought it laid. In the case of like the water department, some of their scores actually went up. Because we felt it was more, there was more importance to it than what the department had done. So there will be worksheets in here, and as we go through this, as we go through the evaluation, we can go back and refer to these if we have any question. And if the entire planning board says, well, I don't agree with that score, maybe we need to adjust that. So that brings us to the lion's share of it. So what happens here is everything is scored. This is all sorted in descending order of the points. So the highest points of everything was 95.25, and that had to do with the school security system. So the committee felt that was in the request amount for this budget year is 200,000.
Just cool. So if you guys want to follow along, so you guys have this sheet. You guys should have a copy of this sheet, which is what we're looking at on the screen here. You see the capital, John's got the capital request number here on the second column from the left. If you want to find the more detailed in the book here, capital request, you're going to find that on, number 40. And so, yeah, like John said, we started with this sheet is what we felt was most important. And then at the end is we felt the least important things. So want to just start at the top?
Yeah, the adjustment, just so the adjustments, there weren't a lot of items where we adjusted from the departments, but there were some. So if we go down this list, the top priorities, as we said, security. The next, water improvement. which was number 40 in your book. There's a water department buildings and improvements. And we did tour these buildings. So any comments from that perspective? We pretty much saw that it needs some attention.
Yeah, so just right off the bat, number 2 here, the water department, this is funding for upgrades to all water department buildings. I mean, protection of life and maintenance of public health weren't weighted at all from the department. We felt, especially with the water stuff, that those were, pretty high priority. So we weighted those a little higher than they were. Any questions or thoughts on that from you guys?
Okay.
We're just gonna keep going. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
You stop us when we want. Okay, fiber network, from the IT department, number 31, capital request, $115,000 for the year. And they rated it as medium. The write-up on this was pretty clear. Involves a backbone for the network to improve network security. And we just basically turn on the news. You'll see somebody got hacked somewhere. And so from that perspective, we're more and more reliant upon systems. Obviously, it's 2026 coming up. And so we felt that was important. Well, redevelopment, again, another high matter. And that's cause for redrilling and lining of wells to improve performance. Pipeline rehabilitation goes on, 300,000, another high one, again, dealing with water. You'll find all of these in here. PFAS mitigation, $1 million. Now, the good news is, as a manager, and invited the manager to join in, like, we're in good shape with regard to where we reside, where the thresholds are. The question's going to be, but are we where we could be? And given the concern about these forever chemicals in the water supply, the ability to clean it out, and again, the Westerly has always maintained high standards, so we thought that this was important.
Just on this item, it's interesting. I forget what the federal threshold is and when they want us to be there. But it's worth noting, and I think our town manager's a little too modest about, we should be very, very proud as a town of where we are. Our levels are very low right now. We want to get those down to 0. I think it's a good example of our town manager and our government being proactive and getting these chemicals out of our water supply. So this was a big one for all of us.
Do you want to meter, replacement is pretty straightforward. Water department. Again, the next is SCADA system upgrade. It's number 38 in the water department, 150,000. And
we have a question.
okay, and this is one we had a question on.
So 38 it's a SCADA system upgrade, funding for updating SCADA software, increase technical support to 24/7, and replacement of hardware components at water tanks and wells. So we kind of felt as though the replacement of hardware components at water tanks and wells, that's, yes, probably capital, but the technical support to 24/7 and the software may be, I don't know, increased technical support to 24/7 is likely going to ultimately, if I had to guess, be an operating expense. So this is, if you're looking at its capital across 38, the water department's looking for 150K every year for the next 5 years, which is, it's an important thing. But we're thought maybe if at least part of this request might be rolled into their operating budget at some point.
So that's a question we want to send back to the council in our documentation then, is how much of that is an operating budget going forward? How much of that is a hardware upgrade? And if that needs to be divvied out in the capital budget going forward. Okay.
How much is servicing, right?
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine.
The same too.
53. Well, that was kind of.
That was 53. And now,
Yeah, that was 38, right?
I'm sorry,
And then 53.
I'm sorry.
Is also the SCADA system, so that was like kind of, we were wondering about that. Is that, so 53 is our next item, sewer. Funding for the remote real-time monitoring and control of wastewater collection treatment.
Different. Yeah, two different systems.
Two different systems.
One's for water and one's for
What's for
wastewater.
sewer?
One for sewer.
Right.
But the question is that monitoring agreement, I assume it would be where it's something, you pay for monthly. If that's operating as well, because this is 25,000 a year for the next 5 years. And so remote real-time monitoring and control of. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Those are the two SCADA systems, both water and sewer. That's the monitoring. So that's an infrastructure upgrade. There's a separate budget line item for the operation of those systems. So that answers your question. That's a separate line item in the budget that operates those systems. We pay a yearly subscription to operate those systems. But they're upgrading the system with the software and the software and actually the control units to allow that monitoring system we're paying on an annual basis in the budget to monitor 24/7. So that's strictly infrastructure upgrades on those two systems. The reason the water one is less is because that project has already started. They've started to increase those. The sewer one they're doing now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Number 50, Water Department again.
Fairly straightforward. Replace the fire alarm systems. Yep, kind of a no-brainer.
And that brings us to the MIOC system, which keeps our water clean. 175 on that. And it's a high priority item by the department. And the next one,
We're just gonna keep going unless you guys have.
yeah,
Thoughts, questions, you want to dip your oar in the water?
lead mitigation, again, a high priority item for our town. $1 million there, number 47. And then we get into dunes. And there's, let me just check this one. So number 10.
No, Tom, there we go. We had a long discussion.
Yeah, long discussion on this one,
You
so.
want to talk about this? No? Roy doesn't want to talk about it. I'll talk. Okay.
Now you don't want to talk about it.
So this is, this was kind of something that we weren't sure if we might consider funding this a little more. So it's a sand and salt marsh contingency fund, which rolls over every year to prepare for the necessary match for federal and DEM grant money. So for dredging the salt marsh restoration on Winnipeg Pond, sand from the dunes blows into the pond, makes it too shallow, drowns native grasses, and impedes the channels that prevent access to the main channel. The marsh protects our barrier beach island from heavy storm surges and prevents breaches of ocean into the pond. It's one of the things that isn't enough. Right? I mean, it's kind of rare to say that, but my thinking or our thinking was, on things like this, we want to try to be as proactive as possible. The cost of replacing, that beach every time it breaches is what? It's a lot more than $50,000. So I don't know. That was just a thought that we had.
And the sheet you're looking at, if you're wondering why it says 304, there was an error on that other sheet. It's been corrected. So if you look on the screen, it's 50,000. So compare and contrast us to Charlestown. Charlestown puts, I can't remember the figure, but I want to say it's in excess of $500,000. Yes, close to $500,000 on an annual basis toward dune restoration. When they have done projects, what happens is this money gets used toward the match, the federal match. When federal funds become available to dredge a pond, dredge trail, pardon me?
They'll only match.
Right. So what ends up happening is the town, our town will sometimes scramble. So our only comment here to the town council is consider that amount and consider toward, as we earmark and put money toward that annual basis, there's enough money there to have a meaningful dredging project.
And continue to be proactive about making sure that the dunes on the ocean side are being, seeded, being as proactive as we possibly can be.
Understood. I guess, town manager, is that something they've done? If I remember correctly, they've done the dredging of the pond every several years. It's not every year that they've dredged it, correct?
It's not something, so we have a separate grant fund account in the actual budget. So if there's funding that becomes available, the grant match fund account that we fund $750,000 usually a year and would be used to fund some of those projects. That is just to,
Continue to.
I guess minor stuff that comes up is the one, and it's usually 50,000 a year, but whatever, you could always use, you could spend tens of millions down there if you wanted.
That's what, so yeah, so there's another, that's what I was getting at. There's another fund, right, that we use for the.
It's a grant match fund, a separate line item in the budget.
That's
That's
what I
for all
thought.
grants. It's not specifically
not
just that, it's
specific,
for all the
This one
grants.
is just for. This one is specific to the pond, but the other one can be used for the pond. as
Anything,
well.
it's all the grants for the town.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Seem to remember this question coming up before. That's why I wanted to ask the clarification. So there is other money available for it to be able to use for it. It's just not necessarily earmarked specifically the way this one is just for this. But to your point, if we want to ask the town council to consider earmarking more directly for this, we can certainly ask that.
Right. So for example, Charlestown currently, the Breachway and Integrate Pond Restoration Project has total funding of $8.4 million, of which $2 million is state designated dredging money and $1.4 million is coming from the Charlestown Beach and Pond Preservation Fund. So they've got significant resources that they've built up over the years through their budget process. So we asked the town council to consider that going forward. I know when they did Quanticook Pond and they did, I want to say it was over 100 acres of pond that they dredged. And they dredged the sand into salt marshes and expanded the salt marsh.
And I just want to make sure that we're all understanding here, everything that we're talking about here as a planning board. This is our wish list. I think it's
Oh, absolutely.
December. I just want to make sure we're all clear. This is December. This is our wish list as the planning board that we can say, this is what we see as priorities. This is what we would like the town council to consider their focus for the budget on, based on what they've already decided. It's where we think the priority should lay when they go through and start redlining the budget. It doesn't necessarily mean we're saying buy this, buy that. We're just saying this is where we think our priorities are. I just want to make sure everybody's understanding that.
And with comments like this, though,
Just because people at home who may not realize what we're doing.
absolutely, yeah, because not everything on this list is gonna get worked on.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah,
just too many piglets.
exactly.
They can't all eat at once, right?
Right.
So, but where we have a comment like that back, and it's only the three of us, I think it's appropriate to, does the rest of the board have consensus? Do we?
Yeah, I
agree?
think.
We
I
agree
think,
with that sort of thinking.
I think what would be
That's what I
best to
thought.
do is just sort of run through and then we can kind of run back, or if we want to do it now, we can pull the
Oh,
board.
either way.
We go either way. I mean, it's up to, I'll leave it to the board if we want to run through these at the end, or if we want to pull the board as we go through any of these ones we have questions on. Okay. All right.
Just two queries on this. I know you mentioned Charlestown and all that. Back in the days of Superstorm Sandy, there was a lot of federal funds available. And my understanding was that Charleston put in a grant request that Westerly didn't join in on. Now, this is ancient history by now, but I'm not sure how much of the sand problem in Winnipock Pond is still relating back to Sandy, or this is current buildup year to year. So just want to make sure that we take advantage, of funds when they are available, because that takes us off the back of the town.
My question is for the town manager. Could you just restate how much money you have in the line item for restoration on an annual basis, as well as any reserves you may have? Yes.
Grant funding well, it's up to the council what they assign each year, but last year was 750,000.
Yep.
Is grant match funding, the line item in the budget,
And that has to be expended within the year, or do you have anything in
spent
reserve?
over the course of the year. If we have grants become available, we use it. We have match funds for all the grants.
Okay.
You know, we did a grant on that salt marsh one. That all started back on the Winnapogue Pond grant, which was a $4.5 million dredging project that we were awarded a grant on. Granted, they put all the sand on the state beach and it was gone by the next nor'easter, but
Sure.
it worked out well when they did it, but that's the point of doing it. So it's 750, $750,000 a year, which I haven't done the budget yet. It will probably be around that amount again.
Okay.
To propose for upcoming grants. I mean, some grants are non-match.
Right.
An example, the Potty Hill Mill grant is 14 million. It's no match. We don't pay anything for it.
Okay.
Many of the grants do. They could be 10, 20, 25% match. We have one with the state that's a 66% match. So they pay 33%, 33 and a third. We pay 66 and 2/3 from
Thank
road
you.
stuff. So
Morris, did you have any comments on this one?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that one? Okay. So I have no problem with, asking them to,
Just consider
set
it.
aside,
Yeah.
to consider setting aside more for that particular one, because again, the lifeblood of the economy here is the beach and what we get out of it in the summertime. So
Yeah.
obviously it's a priority here for the economy. So the better we take advantage of maintaining that, the better off we are as a town. So I don't have a problem with that.
So, the next one's number is rights of ways. Anybody who's paid attention to town council meetings know that these are an issue on an ongoing basis. And there's $100,000 total cost this year, $20,000. And it talks about research. This is including research, assessment, signage, walkways, infrastructure improvements, and surveying. Any comments?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the only question that we had was, should this be something that's, if it's gonna be ongoing, is it an operating rather than a capital improvement? If it's a 5-year project, I mean, I know these rights of way need to be cleared consistently. I don't know if that's part of it, the brush, the vegetation cleared back. But if the signage and stuff needs to be, if that needs to be updated frequently, is that operating or line item? I don't know. We weren't sure if it belonged under capital.
And is there a separate line item in the budget for rights of way to handle all the maintenance, the keeping vegetation back and all that? And this is specifically to open or reestablish rights of ways.
And I believe the town manager, when he came before us, this one was specifically for reopening, maintaining the ones that are currently shut down, correct? Yeah, so this one, I think we can
So it's a
safely
project.
say is a project and a capital expense versus a maintenance.
The next thing comes down into is for the police department. Again, this is a basic and it has to do with public safety, has to do with car videos for the cars, the cameras. And the next one also public safety, department radio replacement plan. So we need to keep the equipment up. It takes a beating, some of the stuff, especially the radios and that used on a regular basis, carried on the officers' bodies in some cases. And we just need to make sure that if they need to make a call, that everything's gonna work. So these are high priority items. The next item is schools. We call it School A because the schools have a little different
Separate.
format. A little different form. So under there, is a
Excuse me.
vehicle
Can I
replacement.
just ask a question on that? Back to
Sure.
video cameras. So though the total's high in terms of the expenditure, what it specifically says is it's for video storage, maintenance, and timely replacement of older units. It sounds like recurring expenses to me.
Yeah.
Would that disqualify from being a capital improvement?
Well, when we met, Sean, you said the cameras are basically, we get them for free and then the storage is what we're paying for, right?
Yeah, it's all the storage. The radio side of it is a replacement every 5 years. So it's 100 grand every 5 years, broken up over 5 years. So that's where you get 20. But it's the same for the body cams. The body cams is currently funded through grant funding that expected to dry up in a couple of years. So that's the core, but you get the cameras for free. It's all your storage. All you're paying for is the storage.
Video storage.
It's servers and
Servers, yeah, you may have to upgrade some of your charging units, some of your hard drives, but basically it's your storage going to the cloud is what but again, we're anticipating we're gonna be absorbing all that cost because the grant funding is gonna dry up. Which ultimately, once that happens, then yes, it would be an ongoing budgetary item on an annual basis. But the radio side or the radars and stuff like that is stuff that gets replaced the radars might be 10 years, the radios are 5 years. So,
I mean, as written to me, it does not sound like a capital improvement.
Or
Which
So I think I think,
36.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Sean. I don't want to put words in the town manager's mouth, but I think what he's saying is, once the federal grant funding dries up, then yes, this shifts from capital to operating.
I understand that. Nonetheless, I don't think by definition it satisfies capital improvement. I don't know how, just because if something's being replaced every 5 years,
Mhm.
that in and of itself, a recurring charge that we admittedly say is going to be an operating expense, does not sound like a capital improvement.
Well, if I have I guess to put it in perspective, if I look at it like I would look at a car, the purchase of the car, I would say is my capital expense, my maintenance and operation, gas, whatever is my operating expenses for the car. When I replace the car again, after it fails, it would be another capital expense. So would I consider the radios to be similar to the car in terms of, the same type of thing? It's that piece of equipment that I'm replacing. And then the storage, the cloud and everything else becomes
We do the same with the weapons, the guns.
yeah.
It's a capital request. It's the equipment because you're upgrading.
It's a tangible item, but it's not a car.
No, I
Camera.
understand, yeah.
Which you've admittedly say is free, and the emphasis being on cloud storage, maintenance, and timely replacement.
Why? It's the same question we had, we had that question with regard to this as we were going through it. And we tended toward to lean toward the side that it's capital. The idea of free cameras, it's only free because the federal government provides grants. If we were buying it from the company, we would be paying for that
What would
equipment.
we be paying?
Hmm?
What would we be paying for that camera?
I do not know.
You're paying roughly around $1,400 a year per officer.
So
If there's 60 officers.
you're saying that $1,400 camera is a capital improvement?
And then we have how many officers?
60 cameras.
60 cameras.
Do that, yeah. About $84,000 a year. And actually, I think I'm off on the numbers because I think it's about 96,000 a year for the camera program.
So do you think the $1,400 camera is a capital improvement?
Well, it's not one, but we're buying 60, we're buying 60 of them.
I'm not sure the aggregate makes a difference, but let's say it's
Yeah.
the aggregate.
The aggregate makes it over the threshold. That's the key.
But it's still a recurring charge.
Yeah, keep in mind, we just started the camera program 4 years ago. So it went in as a capital request originally because it was starting the program. We're funding it to establish a balance, whatever the grant funding wasn't covering. So again, once the grant funding is up, if it does not come back, grant funding doesn't come back, it would become a budgetary item. I mean,
If we're buying firearms, you're buying firearms for 60 officers, considered capital expense.
capital requests. So because we do them, say every 10 years, you might replace a sidearm.
Oh.
It could be a new improved, like they're using guns now with red dot sights on them and night lights and so forth. So it's a capital request. It's a one-time purchase over a 10-year period, and we ask for a capital request. Now, we may recommend it get funded over a 5-year period so we can buy the guns at the end of that 5-year period.
Or-
Then
So
you
he's
own-
putting the cost over 5 years for
Mhm,
60
that's right.
officers as opposed to spending it all at once.
So Derek, I mean, I think we all, like, we definitely had this same debate when we talked about it. And ultimately where we landed on this was, one, it's fairly high on the priority list. Two, I mean, I think they're essential for both for the police safety and citizen safety and trust and everything else that's spelled out here. And then three, when we talked to the town manager, said that, you know, once this federal funding dries up, then this, yes, becomes an operating. So ultimately, on balance, we said, yes, we should. We felt as though the planning board might allow this as a capital improvement, and
Yeah, I don't disagree with the reasoning in terms of priority or the reasons for doing it. It could be very high. Just sitting where it sits, coming out of operating versus capital, that's where my disagreement is. I don't disagree on the priority or your reasoning. I just, based on how it's written and what I've heard so far, I see it. I don't see the capital improvement.
So let me pause this because I think we've
Mhm.
kind of beaten a dead horse here. Ultimately, and I go back to what our role here is to make recommendations to the town council. So if we're in disagreement of this or in agreement on this, we make a recommendation to town council. Ultimately, the town council is the one who's going to be the arbiter as to whether they determine it to be a capital expense or a ongoing maintenance budgetary item based on their determination, based on, you know, whatever recommendation we make. So I think what we can do here is we can poll the board. We can make a determination based on the consensus of the board as to what we decide, and that's what we'll recommend in our memorandum for that particular line item. If we decide it's as a consensus that it goes forward as a capital item, we leave it as a capital item. If we recommend that it goes forward as a ongoing maintenance item, we can recommend to the board that it gets moved to maintenance item, but ultimately that decision is going to fall with the town council when they make their decision.
So when you say consensus, what you're saying is we're looking for consensus on, should we add a comment off to the right
Yes,
here on this, to that point of,
right,
it's a jump ball.
Yeah.
It's a jump ball kind
Right,
of
the
thing.
consensus of the board is
Got
that this might be considered a maintenance item, and we leave it to the town council to make that determination. But again, so we'll poll the board and we'll let you see, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just two comments. First comment is that this was included in prior year funding, okay, with this item. So this isn't brand new to the council. This is a continuation of, but I do agree. I think since we do have a question, I think that the town council should look at it to redetermine, is it an expense or is it capital? And leave it in their lap because they're gonna have to make the decision. But we have a question about it.
Well, I guess, which is fine, we have a question, but I'm asking your recommendation to
I would-
the board, so.
I would
you-
keep it as a capital only because we did prior funding.
I get, no.
Okay, so you would leave it as a maintenance item? Or-
Operations and maintenance. It's ongoing.
Okay.
Can you come back to me? Let me think on some more.
I'm fine funding it as a capital expense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it could go sort of either way, but as it was prior funding, I'd be fine with it going to capital expense for, you know, the time being.
John?
You know, I think it should be looked at, and I think it should be maintenance. I agree with these gentlemen here.
Okay, so we have
No.
three, so this leaves it on my shoulders right now. I love this. So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be pretty blunt on this. So we funded it last year. It's an ongoing thing. It's was listed as a capital expense last year. We funded it initially as a capital expense. I agree with you that eventually this will turn into a maintenance expense. Maybe this isn't the year that we switch this over, and maybe it's next year or the year after when the grant money goes away. So my recommendation would be to leave it as a capital expense this year. And we're gonna revisit this next year, the year after, because it's gonna be, if you look at this, this is an ongoing item that's gonna continue for the next several years. At some point, that grant money is gonna go away. And to the town manager's thing, this will become an operational cost at that point, and at that point, it's gonna go away. One person's consumable is something I'm not allowed to throw away. So again, I can't throw the camera away and I can't throw away the cloud storage and I can't get rid of it. To me, that's something that I can't get rid of. It has to stay. It becomes capital and a fungible item. I know. I get it. So my recommendation with the other. So I think based on that, that's 4-3. So I think we leave it as capital. But again, I think based on this discussion, and we've got members of the board and the town manager here, I'm sure if this comes up in their meeting, they'll discuss it as well.
So I will add if it's appropriate, if we're in agreement, that the town council should review, the planning board, the planning board considers,
Leaving.
considers it a capital item on a 4-3 vote.
Yeah.
So that way they have the information and they.
Leave that in there,
Okay.
sure. You can just say it's a capital item for the time being, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, good. And radios we're good with, right?
Yes.
On the next
I
one,
think
okay.
those are the radios.
So then we go back to the next one, vehicle replacement for the school. And they have a high, it's $124,000 this year, and it is, we consider it school A, so.
Yeah. So our primary question on this was, and I brought it up, when we met with the two gentlemen from the school. So we're replacing 2 large school buses with full-size gasoline powered buses. Those are, for the 2 of those, that's $320,000. Then we're gonna replace 1 minibus at a cost of $120,000, and then replace 1 van, which I think they said was for ferrying equipment here, there, the next place, for $80,000. So it's fairly well known that enrollment is going down, has gone down, is projected to continue to go down at Westerly Public Schools. The question I asked of the school board was, at what point do we stop replacing the buses? I understand even if there's just 1 child in a certain area, we still need a bus to service them. But so again, breaking down the numbers, if we're replacing 2 large school buses with full-size buses, can we start to replace some of those large school buses with the, $120,000 minibuses instead? And they said at some point that's going to happen. And I'd like to, if it were me making the decision, I would like to see how many buses we had 10 years ago when we had twice the amount of students versus how many we have now, and see if any of them have been phased out or, made smaller. I think they could probably be, or we felt as though they could probably be a little more aggressive in looking at that. So I'll open that up to comments here.
Did they provide any analysis to you, or did they say?
They
have
just said
not
at
done
some
that?
point, we're gonna have to do that. Yes, you're
But they
right.
haven't.
But they didn't say, we didn't.
So
That was
they-
all, that was what I got,
So they haven't done that analysis as of yet.
not to my knowledge.
I was going to just add, what they really need to do, given the enrollment situation, they should be able to give us, or to town council, number of pupils per bus per route. Because I see some of these buses going through and maybe they have half the bus full. And you keep running these back and forth and over the place. So I think they could tell us right now, on the various buses going middle school, high school, wherever, this is the number of students they have per location in town. And I think, I can't believe they wouldn't have that.
Derek, Morris, anything?
No.
All right. So I think what you know, how we've handled this in the past when we sent a memorandum forward for something like this, is we've made a recommendation to the town council to ask them to ask the school committee to provide additional data to justify the purchase. You know, with that specific ask in mind. So I think to your point, it's a very valid point. You know, can you, or have you done an analysis to justify whether or not this can be reduced? So basically it becomes we're not saying that this is not a capital cost. This is not saying we're not prioritizing this, but can you reduce this item in your line item by evaluating that to come back with a lower cost?
Yeah, and again, you know, our charge here is to kind of, we're thinking into the future.
Right, absolutely.
And we've all seen the projections in the comp plan, and I think that should be considered.
Didn't we do something like that, Nancy, in the memorandum a few years, 2 years ago, I think? We had something that we had asked somebody to reduce, or
It was a suggestion made.
it was a
yeah.
suggestion that we made about reducing a cost by reevaluating something. I can't remember what it was for.
I can't either, but we have that language. If you need
Okay.
it.
Okay, so I think that would be a good way to address that if the board's in agreement. Chris, are you good?
Yep.
Agree, the additional detail to support what they're looking for needs to be there.
All right. I think we're in agreement then. So we make that recommendation to the council along with that. Okay.
So back to drinking, back to water tanks. 497,000 high, and this is water tank rehabilitation. Again, next, the other end of the spectrum, sewers, number 56. Sewer system evaluation cameras, and that's 125,000. Again,
Guys, just feel free to jump in if you have any comments or
Mhm.
thoughts on these. The ones that we didn't have any questions on, we're just rolling
Yep.
right through, but please.
I have a question
Yep.
on the water
Go.
tank one. Is that part of the contract that was signed with the company to like redo the water tanks? Or is this just,
Yes.
does anybody know?
Yeah. Yeah,
They do like-
it's the one that goes
Okay.
tank by tank by tank.
so when we have a tank, that's good for 5 years, 10 years, extended period. More than 5, yeah, how long is it? So. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
The next one is, sewer infrastructure, $100,000. Again, this is public health. The water and sewers it's all public health. It's all basic services that the town provides and feel like that. The next one we did have a question on, and this is water forensia extraction, and that's 206,000. I'm sorry.
We didn't do the sewer plan.
Oh, sorry, sewer plant upgrade. Sorry,
That's
sorry.
over there.
$28 million,
Oh, yeah.
20,333,000, 30.
Skipped right over that one, didn't you?
Now,
Yes.
is that going to be the bond coming up?
It's a bond.
Okay,
So there's two things you're gonna find in this list that are bonded.
right.
One is a sewer plant and the other one is the road bond.
Ah, got it.
Yep. So sorry, jumped ahead. So the next one was, we had a question on this, and this refers to leasing. And with some confusion, Mr. Manager, on which property this was referring to.
Number 44.
I'm talking to him. So this is the Sherenzia, it says a water Sherenzia extraction, and it is I think it's a $206,000.
So the land lease for the property,
105 White Rock Road.
105, right? We're leasing the land to protect the aquifer. So we lease the land to prevent it from development. So we're leasing the land from Sherenzia. At the end of the lease, we own the property.
This is a separate property than the property we purchased.
The property we purchased, we already own.
We already own.
This is the property next to that,
Okay.
property next to, so you have a tower in the middle, which Cox Communications still owns or a media company owns. The property on the left side of that tower, the big piece along the river is the property we purchased. And that's where the solar field is. We
Yes,
purchased that from Sherenzia.
right.
The other property we were already under lease for. That's a big section to the right of the tower, which we leased it. Basically, you dragged out payments over 20 years. So
So it's a lease purchase.
it's a lease purchase. That's
Gotcha.
correct.
Okay.
No,
So, and this is all done, this is in the well recharge area. We talked
That's
about
right.
that, right?
Yeah, that whole area.
Okay. So
I
that's
have a
that.
question on that. So I'm not looking to throw out 13 years of work. but Debt service isn't typically a capital improvement. Well, how has this been included in the past?
It's said, the way it was set up, it's just set up as a payment goes to them every year under it was a capital that was set up back when this was originally started. So it's not a loan. We're not paying interest on it.
No, you are paying interest on it now. You weren't.
I don't think we are.
No, you are. Because it says,
Yeah, but that's to the Sherenzia side of things. So what happened when it's locked into a bank now. So Sherenzia is paying, in other words, we agreed to a price with them, we were paying Sherenzia directly. Sherenzia then took the collateral of that land and borrowed money from the bank against it. So we pay a bank directly. We're not actually paying Sherenzia. So they're paying the interest. When it was set up with us, and confer, I mean, I guess find out exactly, but.
that needs clarification because it does
Yeah.
say fiscal year 24-25 forward includes principal and interest.
Right. Because that's what because we get the audit comes through, we're paying the bank. There's principal interest to the bank. It's not our loan, it's Sherenzia's loan. They use the property as collateral after this lease on our side was set up. We used to pay them directly. Probably about 6-7 years ago, we started paying the bank directly.
But still, regardless, if you pay the bank, it's still debt service to the bank.
No, we're not paying the debt service. That's them paying the debt service to the bank. We
I
used
thought
to
you
pay
just said you
them.
paid the bank.
We pay the bank directly now because there was some court order that came down that the money can't pass through them. It has to go directly to the bank. Not a fault of ours, that was them.
so they still got a loan.
They borrowed it, they used it as
They
collateral,
used
so
it
we
as
pay the bank
collateral.
directly.
We were paying them. The court ordered us to pay the bank directly.
Because the Serengia excavation, one of the owners passed away and that's what,
I got you.
as a result of
I
it.
see.
Yeah.
Would principal only be a capital expense because you're getting land? That's the way I'm reading it, that you're putting the money toward getting an asset.
That's correct.
What's
It was set up as a
Without that
capital.
backstory, it does sound like a loan.
Yeah, it does. Until you get the backstory to realize that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not our loan. The loan has
No, I
nothing to do with
understand,
it.
but reading this description, it sounds like a loan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
What's the building used for, Sean?
So
The building on the property?
there's no building on the
We own
property.
it. Yeah, free and clear.
It's vacant land.
On 105?
No, vacant land.
Oh, are you
basically-
talking about the
It's
cell
basically
tower?
Installment plan.
Tower is not ours. It's owned by a communication group.
Zero.
It's 2 acres, right?
Bank took over the house.
I just think it might be more than that. I don't.
Part of the estate.
2.2.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, when we pull this address up, it would, remember the old Gilligan's?
Yeah, that's that's not the property.
That's not the property,
It's not. So I don't know why.
but it constantly
This was
pulls up
our-
on that, when we pull it up on the GIS.
You're pulling up the address, you're getting the old White Rock Inn, the bar, right?
Yeah,
That's not the property.
Not the
It's to the back of that. It's the property behind that. It's a big, huge piece of property behind that. I'm almost positive it's well over two acres of land.
Yeah, if you look
40
at-
acres.
Huh?
40 acres?
There you go. That's probably it.
Oh,
If you look on the-
that-
yeah, if you look on the GIS, it's.
I was
big-
wondering how they got that kind of a
It's
deal.
a big wraparound.
2 million.
Okay.
God.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a big
Got
wraparound
it.
piece on the river.
thank you.
Technically, that's coming up on mine as 18 Springbrook. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
So,
All right, so we're good there.
Everybody, we okay with that?
Yep.
okay, so next one is, we're now up to school H, okay, $350,000, and this has to do with bus parking at the bus garage. So, again, we think it's important, they have it as a high priority. And it's in here. So any comments?
So the one comment that we had on that was, or that we wanted to, forward along to the town council was if we end up, if the town council, the town decides to move the bus depot, is this $350,000 that we're gonna throw out the window? So that's just a consideration that we thought we might want to throw at them.
The only question I had was, I noticed this was the one thing that had a ride reimbursement. So basically Rhode Island Department of Education would reimburse us the 350,000 for the
Well,
camera,
100% reimbursement.
100% reimbursement. So if they're gonna pay for it, and then even if we install it and we have to move the cameras later, is that worth getting the camera system and everything else and then having to move it later on? I think that might be worth the investment to do it, even if we have to move the cameras to a different location. I don't know. That was the only thing I flagged on. I was like, oh, if they're gonna pay for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
We like free stuff.
Everybody like free stuff?
It's free.
It's never free, I know.
Next one, 27 from the IT department, townwide phone. So replacement of the phone system. The next item is 57, and that's back to the sewer department. And Jacobs Engineering, who runs our sewer treatment plant, has a capital investment schedule or capital replacement schedule that's in there. And per their contract with Jacobs, this 150,000 goes into replacing equipment. Now I think of the operation of the sewer plant, which we did tour. Yeah, and it was quite good and not very odorous because they're doing a great job of running it. The challenges there are a lot of pumps are in operation. They're working constantly, a lot of motors and things. So from a capital investment perspective, it's one capital intensive and it's and stuff wears out in constant use. So the next one is the DPW garages. This is DPW buildings.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Back on that item with Jacobs,
Yeah,
did they submit any justification on cost line item? What their planned expenditures are based on prior performance of equipment and whatnot?
I have not seen it. My assumption is, and the manager can confirm, they have a schedule and items, and that's where this is created, but within the document, we're not seeing that level of detail.
So if you look on the sheet,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to tell you, the 150 is in their contract that we have to supply that in a capital account for them at their request over the course of a year for equipment that, if they're upgrading equipment in the facility, they have up to 150,000 a year capital money from the towns.
But that 150,000, when we go through that, at various points, and there are quality checkpoints where we're getting a report on all the equipment that they've replaced with that.
Everything they're replacing it with, they submit a report to us. They provide it. We're just reimbursing them the money for it. We get a report at the end of every year.
Okay.
And if they're not using it every year, we'll roll.
Yeah.
In other words, if they're saving, there was a compact, I'm saying the term wrong, but the thing that compresses it, all the liquid out to make it into it's almost like peat moss, right? But that unit was 600 and something $1,000. So it came out of they took combined money to fund that. They funded half of it, we funded half of it.
And I saw that piece of
It
equipment.
used to be, the contract was previously at 50,000 a year. When we re-upped it, when we started this new design, it went to 150.
So that piece of equipment they did see in operation. So what we had previous to having that piece of equipment and making that investment and upgrade was we had a lot of trucks that were leaving out of our facility and there was a fair amount of moisture in. So
Right.
a lot of
All the moisture out.
a lot of trucks, a lot of moisture. and wait,
We're paying for the water.
and we're paying for the water when we dump it. So now, it's much better. And it does look like, it's amazingly, it does look like peat moss.
So Maurice, I shared your skepticism. Just in general, when, you know, I was learning about Jacobs and their, you know, how they operated the septic system and how, you know, it seemed to me before I went there, it seemed a little, you know, like they were kind of working both ends against the middle. But having toured the plant, having spoken with their engineers, it seems as though that company is very, very well run. They're doing a really, really nice job with our sewer treatment plant. They're run by engineers. I left feeling, you know, again, I shared your exact same skepticism. I would strongly encourage you to go down there and speak with one of their engineers. Very knowledgeable, not a, you know, it just seemed very well run. And I left feeling, again, I mean, I always have a bit of skepticism, but I left feeling very confident with the upgrades that they were making.
And that's
If I
one,
may.
and that's one location that they gladly will give any member of the planning board a tour of whenever you want to go down.
As part of my career, 18 years has been spent in wastewater and drinking water infrastructure. My brother-in-law, Scott Dewar, used to run the Margin Street facility for the contractor. When I worked for Hart Companies, we were in every single one of the pump stations in this town along with it. So I'm familiar with it. There is no skepticism. I'm aware of the challenges. I'm aware of the level of professionalism. I was just wondering what justifies or what do they use for backup to say, last year we only needed this much, this year we need this much or whatever. So the nature of the relationship and how the funding is justified was my question, wasn't skepticism. The only other question I have is due to the nature of how this is set up. Is this a lump sum that's provided to Jacobs, or is this a lump sum that we have as a set aside, if you will, a contractual allowance for which they bill against, and they just kind of keep working away at it through the year as other costs come up?
It's the latter of the two, and
Thank you.
everything has to be approved through our end before they do it. It's set up because if a pump breaks, it's not in their contract. We have to set aside this money, because if a pump breaks and they said a $38,000 pump just went, we have to replace it. That capital money gets used to replace this pump because it's not in their contract. So the money is set aside. They have to approve everything they'll suggest. We suggest upgrading this, we're suggesting upgrading that. We don't have to say yes to anything. But they do not get the money. It's not a slush fund they can spend as they will. It gets approved as they look for it, and it's reimbursement to them. So
There's a quality checkpoint.
Thank you.
And if I could just, to Morris's point about, you know, how do you know what they spent last year? How do we know what they did, you know, the previous years? If you look at the sheet, last year they spent 957 was their prior year funding. Of that 957, I believe 800K of that was the media replacement, correct?
yeah, that
And
was
the
an
other 157
additional
was
funding that
what
we
they
put
had.
aside.
So
Mhm.
that gives you an idea of what it was. So that 150 is about what they're spending on an
Mhm.
annual basis for replacement of you know, capital items within the plant on an annual basis. Capital, because they're replacing physical equipment within the plant.
Okay. All right, DPW buildings. This is another one we need, Mr. Manager. This is another one we want like a little more detail, or not necessarily, we would like a little more detail, but we think more detail should be provided when, with the town council. A laundry list of the items that go in there, $750,000.
This is for all town facilities.
All.
It's not a particular DPW building, it's all town facilities. We have a AC compressor that breaks at the police department, is $48,000 to
This is
replace.
DPW buildings.
Huh?
This was, item number 4.
It's all, that's all town buildings. DPW is responsible for all the buildings in town.
Yes, it is.
They're very responsible for everything. It's everything. Town hall, water department, not water department separate. DPW building, it would be anything to do rec facilities, police departments, any of the town buildings. The VFW on Beach Street's a town building. It's a garage, everything we have.
The armory.
Armory, same thing. We don't, again, that's a little different. We have a line item that we give the armory, but again, it's our responsibility. We grant fund stuff with them. We co-sign grants with them to match. They're doing a roof job now for the slate, but that is not out of that amount. That's a separate line item for the armory.
And then we go to school. Any questions on that? Okay, school, C, roof replacement. 1,617,000. Again, you got a house, you have a roof, you need to take care of it. Sewer, back to sewer, infiltration capital, $100,000. This has to do with the sewer lines themselves as they run through town. As you know, in certain areas of town, there's a pretty old, 100-plus-year-old pipes, and they are relined. So there's a relining process that goes on here, and that's what's associated with this. Transfer station upgrade, $800,000. And you want to talk about that one?
So, excuse me. The building for recycling, we did get further clarification on that. Basically, just to give a little background on it, we're paying, I'm sure everybody here has been to the transfer station. You have the dumpsters that have the cardboard and the cans and bottles and whatnot. They'd like to get those under a roof so that we're not paying, when it rains, they're not paying for water to be, taken up to Johnson as well. Our question on that, and one that we thought might be worth asking, was if I think there was something about the state might be taking over recycling in general. So if that happens, how much do we want to invest in a roof over the recycling? If in a couple of years, we're not going to be doing that at all.
So we found out some more information on that. So yes, the state may be taking, that's a proposed bill to the legislation this year, taking over recycling. However, I've learned more since I've met with you guys. So most likely what will happen is we will still, because of course we're unique. We don't have municipal pickup. People go to the transfer station themselves. And what will most likely happen in a community like ours is they will reimburse us for all our recycling costs. So we will get a kickback as opposed to them collecting recycling in town. It'll still have the same operation. We will take it, we will get reimbursed. Because there's a lot of communities that have these same questions. Are you just going to hire a company to do recycling throughout the state? And the answer is no, the operation you currently do will stay in place and will reimburse the town and city for their expense. So if it happens that way, there will be a need to cover this so this stuff's not contaminated loads. Granted, although the contaminated loads won't be our problem, it'll be the state's problem, but I think we still have a due diligence to make
Still
sure
worthwhile.
protected. Yeah.
I think that was all we had on that one. Oh, no, the scale, replace. So replace the existing scale and add an additional scale at the exit. We weren't sure what the cost of that was and whether, not necessarily would be warranted. I don't know, it's just another lap around there. I don't find it to be too congested, but that was just kind of like a thought that maybe the council wanted to ask.
Would require an additional operator.
Well, we decided it wouldn't because there's already somebody at the exit anyway, watching people come in, right? We talked about that.
Right. And this is, again, as we're talking about where we're at on your list now, if we're starting with your list being, as we've scored it, the highest priority being top of page 1,
Right,
We're now into the bottom of page 2,
3.
beginning of page
Yeah.
3.
You're on the 30th item.
Yeah, so we're pretty far down in the list of the planning board's priorities, so whether or not we want to get into the nitty gritty of whether or not we think the scale is, the extra scale is appropriate, I think we can leave that to the town council to make that call. But I'm with you. I've never found the scale to be all that onerous to have to drive around a second time to get weighed again.
We got a total for you at the end, even though we don't care about money, but just
Yeah.
just for yucks and giggles. All right, upgrade to the town computer tech, $10,000 again. Rotary Park is $500,000. Okay.
Top page 3.
Upgrades to Rotary Park. That's number 32. It's item number 26 in your books. Water Department Building Improvements, 52 is $75,000. The sewer department again, water and sewer.
Can I just back up a second? I lost place with where we are. Upgrades to town computer tech 33. You have 10,000 there. Am I wrong?
That's this year's amount.
It's spread
That
out.
was number,
It's one of those total project.
that is
costs
number
spread out
33.
over-
The
What's
total
the-
project cost is $94,934. Are sometimes you choosing like the fiscal cost and sometimes you're turning the total cost? Choosing?
No, I think that was a mistake on one of them. We were only, I think it was only supposed to be the amounts for 26, 27, right?
Correct.
The
The amount in this column is supposed to be from the year 26, 27, not the total, but.
Correct.
You
It
had,
is only the annual, that's that.
No.
When
Are
you look-
sometimes we switching between amounts?
I think
Oh,
it's only one and that was an error. The
Can I ask
300,
a question? A capital improvement is, it's not over it's not the total cost?
It is the total cost over 63,000. The total project
The
cost.
total project cost.
Right. So in this case, the total project cost is $94,000,
So,
but it's only $10,000 this year.
yeah, and let me back up, because we did this last year and the year before, and we got wrapped around the axle on the number.
Right.
And I think the town manager explained this to us last time, because we got so wrapped around the number 2 years ago, I think it was 35K, and then it was
Yeah.
something else. So the number is an arbitrary number that we determine as a town, just so that we have a threshold for
Sure.
departments.
No, I get that.
And then it's a total project cost. And in some cases, we take that total project cost and we divide that over a lifetime of a project that might take,
Yeah.
5 years to fund, so that we spread that cost out over
Yep.
5 years. But the total cost of the project still falls within that threshold. And in other cases, like we pointed out, that might amount more to a maintenance cost versus a capital cost, but then,
So
depending
that's
on
my
the case.
question here, is that could we get a better description than upgrades to town computer tech equipment?
I think it's replacement of
It doesn't say, it says upgrades to town computer tech equipment. No.
I think we need them right now.
What's that?
I
So
think we need it right now.
Yeah.
having been in the IT business.
Upgrades would be considered replacement too.
Yeah.
If you're upgrading infrastructure, so. It's
Okay.
replacement. It's not
So-
maintenance.
In terms of asking for, we don't have no idea what these assets are. I mean, are they greater than 3 years life or are they recurring items?
Yeah, their computer replacement plan, I think, is based on a 5-year cycle. They're replacing everything every 5
Is
years.
it definitely on a 5-year cycle or you believe it is?
I believe it is.
Can we find out the answer to that?
I can ask the IT person. See if-
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to know the nature of what we're approving
Yeah,
or
typically
recommending. Recommending, I'm sorry.
is,
But I think that's a valid, I don't think that, I think the description is not sufficient for recommendation.
okay.
I can ask.
Typically it's like server upgrades and laptops and monitors.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah.
I think for the purposes of recommendation, I don't think we should make anything an assumption, based on assumption.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
if I could, I'd like to jump back to item number 26.
Rotary Park.
Yes.
I think we're still on 33.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we can jump forward,
Nope.
or we can finish 33. So
Okay.
I think we just want some additional clarification on 33.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I just added it. We need more detail. for the town council. That's our recommendation.
Okay, all right, in that case, you can jump to 30,
You have the wrong
26 then.
here.
On 26, the scripter and everything looks fine. Proposed shows 340,000 on the narrative sheet, and we're showing 500 here.
I
So
think
just as a comparative reference, I jumped ahead and looked at 28.
Yeah.
28 shows 25K here, and it shows
340.
25K in the narrative.
You know what? Let me just go look what the link
Should be
is.
340.
104. Let me just.
These are,
104.
I thought we went over these.
Should be 340 there.
See,
Right.
104,
I mean-
Rotary Park,
Yeah.
Should be 340 then. under
Should be
26.
340, right.
Thank you, Morris.
Thank you.
Yes. So now if we
Thank
go
you.
back, now it's 340.
Danger of spreadsheets.
like I said, it was a long, long working session.
Yeah. And once every 500 keystrokes, you always get an error. You always get some number wrong or a letter wrong or whatever. So apologies.
I have a question on Rotary Park. If I remember back a ways, the town was applying for grants for recreational facilities. Is this under any of those grants or being requested? Or would it fit or as far as funding?
We don't know.
No, we didn't know.
Don't know
Right,
that.
okay. No, I just raised
You know-
that because I remember a lot of the fields in town, they were upgrading under grants.
Oh, you mean, yeah,
Grant monies.
you're
Sorry.
talking about the master plan that was
Yeah,
developed?
right.
Okay, yes, yes.
Okay,
No, it wasn't.
okay.
But the master plan was out there. So, and what the master plan was, it was inventory of all the rec facilities
Right,
with a list of recommendations for upgrades, some of which are included in here, some of which are not.
okay,
So for example, the LED lighting for the tennis courts are
Mhm.
in here, which is an upgrade, will result in operational savings. But there's also bathrooms in here, I believe.
Right.
Also.
Mr. Town Manager?
The assumption of 5 years. We would like to be at 4, but that's the goal, but 5 years for the majority equipment. However, you could have a printer, a big plot printer that might last 7 years. Or you might, depending, but for all the computer infrastructure, the embraceation of the computers is 5-year cycle currently, is what it's based on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just really quickly, while we're still on Rotary Park here, I guess back and forth. I just want to make a
It is
note.
Tennis court, so that's very appropriate.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
One of the notes we had was that this was we found this really helpful how, in the general summary for number 26, Rotary Park, we found it helpful that each individual item was spelled out. When you contrast that with the 750,000
Building upgrades.
on number 4 for the DPW building upgrades, if you just flip back and forth between those two, I thought we thought the description for the Rotary Park where it gives you the breakdown of each thing and where that money is all going, we felt as though that was much more helpful. So, anyway, just a note.
So water department building improvements, $75,000. Again, that's in here. Next is roads and sidewalks. To the question earlier, this is bond money. Okay. Next is miscellaneous IT upgrades, and this one is a question for the town council. Is this necessary? And should it be in the operating budget? Because again, there's not a lot of detail there. So it's upgrade to various. So yes, upgrades to firewalls, improvements to keep with different technologies. Keep up with different technologies. So there wasn't a level of detail in there that really kind of like The next is,
So I will, if I could interject one thing, only because I just learned this this year, because I always thought of firewalls as a software thing. Firewall devices are actually a hardware device, not
Oh,
a
yeah.
software device. So go figure. I always thought the opposite. So I guess call me an IT novice here. But it does say in here firewalls and server upgrades is two of those items that it calls out in here. So I don't know if that when we send this forward, those are the two items that it calls out. So I don't know if we.
yeah, the full
wanna
amount is
identify those.
$189,000 on this for the total project, but this year is 25,000.
Yep, no, I know. I just wanted to make sure we called that out because we're asking
Yeah.
if it's a maintenance thing, that those are two hardware devices that it is specifically calling out.
Again, it's one of those things where your upgrade is the upgrade a software
Right.
upgrade?
How much of
Is
it
it a
is-
server upgrade?
Yep.
You know, that
Understood.
kind of questioning.
That was incorrect. The next one.
51, security and fire, $25,000. In the water department.
Because
Oh, sorry.
equipment replacement is 51.
Yeah. Funding for road restoration and pavement equipment. It's not fire. It's not security and fire safety service.
Oh, okay.
4.
No, that, hang on one second. That, B. Brief. I just went to the eye doctor today. I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
50 is security and fire safety services.
No, I literally. 315, yes, and this is, give it to me again?
Equipment.
Equipment replacement, thank you. And in
Right.
the
50
future,
50 you already have, yeah, so.
Okay. In the future, one of the things, if the planning board could get a copy of this as an Excel spreadsheet, because we literally re-entered this. Yeah.
It's way more
Now
entertaining,
we gave up, but anyway.
way more
That would be,
entertaining.
that would be helpful. Okay, so, equipment replacement, got it. Okay, so the next one is equipment replacement for the water department and $25,000. Brings us to school E, LVT flooring for Springbrook School. Springbrook School is, believe it or not, Springbrook School's been there for, its bonds pretty much paid off, right? It's paid off, so what's that, 20 years? 30 years, huh? So it's been there for 30 years. $266,000 or so. Again, it's one of those things that we've owned it. Now we get into the rec department and
One other quick thing, just another
sure.
reminder, that's another one that's eligible for ride reimbursement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, whenever you're doing capital, whenever we're doing capital at the school, window replacement, the same sort of thing.
I know.
We do projects, maintenance and capital projects at schools, very often ride money comes into play.
I thought that they told us that the ride reimbursement was 35%.
Correct. On which one, Windows?
No, on all of the school. Yeah, 35%.
Yeah.
Okay.
White Rock, facility, $105,000. That's number 23 by the rec department.
Skate park.
That's a skate park, right? Skate park's been there for a while. It could use some, it's a little tired and use some upgrades, and that's what that is. Computer and tech equipment, next, IT again, $150,000.
This one's for the GIS aerial photo.
Yeah. So it's GIS, yeah, aerial photo updates. Which we have all the time. The next one's rec department, 16 in Perry. I think this was yours.
Yeah, so
328 Atlantic Avenue property, and it's $500,000. It's medium priority, but our score on it is 78.75. So as we said earlier, there's a lot of stuff at the top and we're getting toward the end, but
Yeah, well, first of all, this is 100,000 for the year. The total is 500,000.
100,000 for the year?
But on, a lot of these properties that the town owns or has acquired that we haven't quite done anything with yet, we were sort of thinking that instead of putting a little bit into each property, come up with a larger amount to make the properties usable as opposed to just patching, Band-Aids. So that's kind of why a lot of them ended up in low priority because it felt like we weren't accomplishing a whole lot with these, smaller budget amounts. And then on this one in particular, what is the goal for this property? Is it parking? How are we utilizing many of these properties? I think between that one, the Canal Street and the Marina was sort of a little bit unclear.
So just to follow up on what Perry said, the question is when we're, again, we trying to think big picture, long-term here, ultimately, what is the plan with this? Before we as a working group would feel comfortable saying, yeah, this is a worthwhile use of $500,000. We'd like to, again, we have these properties, and 116 Canal Street was another one, where there's a good amount of money being, proposed. We'd like to see an end game, a plan. We would want to see what at the end of this $500,000 are we going to have to show the town, for the town people to be able to use. Rather than, like Perry said, a little bit at a time, and we'll kind of chip away, and these properties just kind of hang out there, and yeah.
So one of the challenges we have with the rec is, and you asked the question, Perry, when we were talking, how many walking trails do we have? So you're gonna see another one later on coming up. Yeah.
When we talk about.
So the river center, but with all the rec facilities we have, if your house is big, your maintenance is big. So we have a lot of rec facilities, and is the rec operating budget to maintain all these? Are we, as we keep, acquiring properties or maintaining properties or saying we're gonna use it? Is it, the old saying is, forget about the skinny mule, just keep loading the wagon, realistically, I think it's important for the town council to say, as James said, what's the end game here? And how many facilities do you want to have? And what do we want to have? Again, long term. If you look at a town like South Kingstown, I think they have a $2.5 million annual budget for their rec department, including its maintenance and programs and things. So when you compare it to ours, I mean, we're not anywhere near those levels. Do we need to be? I don't know. Do we want to be? I don't know. It's all questions for the town council to wrestle with, but they're questions that we're just asking.
So the better example is 116 Canal Street, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's, if you go past Gray Sale down Canal Street, on the left there's kind of a dilapidated, the roof's caving in garage, right? It's a stone building. So just to jump forward to that, ultimately the request is for 75K a year for the next 5, for 375 to put a new roof, survey it, site plan it, maintain it, electrical maintenance, signage, redevelopment of the property. We spoke with the town manager about this. This was where the walking trails came up. And again, it's kind of like, might this better be utilized if we leased it to somebody and they put a restaurant there? I don't know. Those are, again, questions for the town council, but to put a new roof on that structure right now without a solid plan on what we're going to do with that property going forward, it does not seem, and it's a stone structure. So if the roof caves in, the roof caves in. I mean, that building's been there, been you know, sitting there for how long, unused, the town's paying maintenance on it. I don't know what we thought on these vacant properties to recommend to the council was, hey, like, before we start throwing money at them, let's get a good plan going forward. That's all.
And the yin and yang here, we've got Bradford School Park that we've got. And Bradford School Park sits next to a neighborhood with a lot of kids, families, et cetera, et cetera. Does it make more sense to allocate the funds to the Bradford School Park project as
Where there
opposed
is-
to this?
You know, we saw it with the Bradford School project. There is a plan. We've seen it. You know, there's stages and there's a concrete plan there.
No.
Where is the, I'm sorry, where is the 328 Atlantic Avenue? Which particular parcel is that?
That's the old,
Is it the old
Waterways.
waterworks?
yeah. And the
okay.
building, that the low slung building,
Right.
that's there, yeah.
Okay.
It's a hill and I think there's.
Yeah.
Are we leasing? Does the town lease any of that out? Yeah,
And so I believe that there is a plan for that building I think the money is designed to get it up to code and all, and then make good use of it, be able to make good use of it. Is that right?
again, if I were making the decision on the council,
And,
I would want,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to see,
We just,
you know,
not,
a concrete plan.
the planning board just may not be in the know on some of these things yet.
We're
But
working with the information we have.
it's a good point, and I think some information should be shared on that, and we've got plenty of information that we can.
And it's,
we can approve.
yeah, it may not be necessary information for us. It's just, you know, if somebody else, the council might be discussing it. We just felt as though,
And 116 Canal Street has a long history as well. It was identified as a kind of a passive recreational facility on the Pawcatuck River many years ago. It was in fact a design that would for a redevelopment of the site for that purpose that included bathrooms and such. And that's where the conversation has been in the last year on bringing back something similar to it, maybe not exactly what was previously designed, but nonetheless, it is the Westerly Land Trust who is taking a big interest in this and has been working with the town manager and our office in coming up with some plans for the immediate future on it. There is an conservation easement on that property, so it cannot be developed in any other way. It has to be used for recreation, passive recreation.
understood. That's good information.
That is good information, but
One quick question regarding the Canal Street property. With the development of the Canal Street boat launch, what state does it leave that property in now?
Sorry, what boat launch?
What is that?
Isn't there a boat launch just after the water department buildings?
Underneath the overpass.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a kayak,
Kayak.
kayak launch, okay.
oh, that one, yeah.
but they're two separate.
The idea is to have some connection on the river between a number of different points. And this one, 116 Canal Street, had been identified many, you're what, 2013, I think it was. I could be mistaken with the year, but at least 10 years ago.
And to date, nothing's been done with that, but we have a potential to maybe expand that kayak facility since it's already there and already set, as opposed to the access challenges of getting to the river from the 116 property as highlighted in the narrative.
Now, the whole concept is to get on and off the river.
Let me just clarify about the kayak one is in White Rock. We just had a grant to rebuild that road across from the soccer fields in White Rock. That's the kayak launch. the building that you're speaking about is a stone building. That's not a kayak launch. That's no kind of, it drops down. That's proposed to be a rec facility. Same with these, and just to answer your question with clarification, some of these projects have to, like the Bradford, old Bradford school property had a complete plan because we funded money to get the plans done. So a lot of these are funding money to get these started, like the beach property. We have to fund money to get a plan to come, to go to the council with a project or to go back to the planning board and say, hey, this is what we're proposing. So that's all these start. The Canal Street one was designed to do complete retrofit of the property, but the grant funding dried up on it, correct? So this was 10 years or so ago. So again, the roof structure on that, yes, we should replace the roof because the roof protects the stone walls. If the roof falls in, it's gonna push the stone walls out. So we
But
have to replace the roof on it.
if we have and I heard passive facility, so passive facility, I'm thinking in terms of, or recreation facility there, I'm thinking not a lot of maintenance. What
Right,
is,
we're working towards, we had a phase 1 and a phase 2 assessment done, because obviously, like every other property along the river, used to be a gas station at some point.
but
So those came back good, very well. So we just inquired another property, as another example, the old Trash and Treasure property, which is kind of, in the corner by the hilltop, the big fence around, we just inquired that. So we're gonna go in there, we got a CMC permit, take all the fencing down, clean it up. I don't know what we're doing with it.
I'll compare it to the old Michelli property with
Right there, we own, right next to it.
we own that. It's just an empty lot.
That's all it is.
We cut the grass every once in a while and that's pretty much left it in a natural state. So the point that this subcommittee was asking is, and we think it's worthwhile for the town council to say this, is how many recreation facilities do you want to have? How do you define passive versus active? How much maintenance do you want to do in this? Because as we keep making the house bigger, the maintenance of all of that gets greater and greater and greater. And if we aren't willing to make that commitment on the maintenance side for the, rec maintenance department and all that, what do we end up with? We end up with facilities, which is a number one complaint that we've heard from citizens, and like, we don't maintain what we own. So that's the root of where we're going.
And I mean, I love hiking, I love walking trails, but how many walking trails do we need in town? It's not a question for us. It's just something we thought, looking at these, it's like, how many do we want to have? How many do we want to keep up? How many, I mean, it's good to have them. It's good to conserve them. But at a certain point, I don't know. That was our thought. I think
So I think just to sum up, and let me make sure I capture this. For those 3 properties, the Atlantic Ave, the Canal Street, the Westerly Marina site, all we're recommending to the council is that when they allocate these funds, that they look at it from the development of a plan, a comprehensive plan for how they're going to use those funds to make those a more, think of the phrase here to capture what you guys were saying, a more comprehensive recreational plan that brings something to the community for the dollars being spent.
Yeah, in other words, do they wish to reallocate those dollars for capital investment in other recreation?
Right,
facilities? Yeah,
right.
we're not saying to take it away necessarily, but we're just saying,
Put it into a comprehensive plan. So you understand.
again,
I don't want to say comprehensive plan. That makes it sound bad. We're not supposed to use
Right.
that term for anything other than the comprehensive plan. A more strategic plan for how we allocate the funds through the recreational facilities we have and the new recreational facilities you're looking at. How's that?
so example, the next one is Ginger Island Sports Complex,
Mhm.
$100,000. That's an easy one. Anyone who drives by there sees how heavily that is utilized by the community. So that makes total sense.
Yeah.
The Westerly Marina is the final one. And that goes into, Jamie, you want to take that one too?
Sure. I mean, kind of same thing. We've got 100,000 over the next 5 years proposed, requested, I guess. The question we would pose is, does the town want to be, and the town council is going to have to wrestle with this, does the town want to be in the marina business? Do we want to spend $500,000 in town money to serve a population, a percentage of our population that I don't know what percentage of folks in Westerly would utilize that. I personally would have a difficult time asking somebody who lives up in, the North End, who doesn't care one tiny bit about boats to spend money on a marina personally, or not personally, what we, our recommendation would be to the council is lease this property out and let somebody else run it, put it out for bid. Viking Marina's right next door. They've got a travel lift. They've got facilities there. They already have employees. I also don't think the government does a particularly good job of running things, specifically businesses. So that was kind of how we felt on, especially the marina side. $500,000 is probably not going to be anywhere near the amount of money it would take to fully develop this marina, to properly develop the marina, I don't think.
Morris, any other question? Go ahead.
So is it 500,000 or is it 100,000 as requested for this year?
This year is $100,000 requested over the next 5 years for a total of $500,000 for the marina. And once you're in for a penny, you kind of got to be in for a pound, right? It's like,
Right.
You're not going to, so again, I haven't seen a plan, like for the Bradford complex, we saw a plan on what the long-term plan is there. And this may be one of those things that we're not privy to. That's okay. Don't necessarily need to be. I'm glad I'm not ultimately making a decision, but that was kind of our thought.
Yeah. Chris, you want to?
Okay, a little background on that.
Sean. On it.
This was for years leased by the town. This was leased by the town for years.
Yeah, well below market, that.
No, I'm just, that's the background.
Yeah, but
And then we told them we didn't want to renew the lease, so the town took it back over. And the plan, the idea behind the property was to bring in a restaurant, was to make it kayak available. It was to bring in picnic areas. It was to basically make it a town recreation site. And I know at that point, I think one of the biggest problems that was coming up was the possible soil contamination from having all the boats and everything there for years. So I would not think that we want to lease it again to another company, especially in the situation that it's going through. EDC is looking at it, and we spend a lot of time, looking and talking about it. So that's just my opinion. I think it can be developed into a nice recreation area for the town, boaters, et cetera. Okay.
So that site, I mean, just, I know you're aware because I mentioned it, but we have to keep that site because there's a pumping station for the treatment plant on it. So we couldn't consider selling it. You can consider leasing it. And it was leased for 40 some odd years as a marina. The end of the lease, the council at the time decided they were not renewing the lease because of the condition and so forth of it. And so we've had a phase 1, 2. We have a complete plan for the site to redevelop it as a marina, dredging involved. And it's, I don't have the number in front of me, but I want to say it was about $6 or $8 million redevelopment of the site to make it into a marina. Then the question, do you make it a municipal marina, or do you have somebody run it for you? There is municipal marinas. The company that designed this is municipal marinas in Massachusetts. It can generate roughly around $300,000 a year in revenue. So if you take a $6 or $8 million investment, is $300,000 a year in revenue. On the positive side, that's what you should be able to make off it. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's up to the council. So we had a phase 1 and 2. As you know, we leased the radio tower site that's on there to WBLQ. So the funding that we're asking is basically the start, because you're right. If I could say put $4 million in the budget this year and we can develop a marina and have a marina, that is to start with the capping of the site. We have to cap it. There's contaminants found on the site, nothing alarming, typical petroleum and lead paint stuff. We do not have to remove it. We can cap it. We can bring the site up. There is a public boat launch on that site that has to remain as a public boat launch for everyone to use. And then the big question on the marina for the council would be, or anybody, I guess it would come before the planning board also, is do we want to have a marina offered to residents only, where like a town, like the town beach? Do you want to offer it to residents first at a maybe a reduced rate, slips for boats and stuff, and make it a recreation site? Because it used to store 110 boats in the winter months. The conclusion on this whole design we have, it was not going to store anything in the winter. It was only going to house boats in the summertime. There was going to be a community dock that people could offload, their wares, their fish, or whatever they were catching. And there was a bathroom facility. The building that's on it is getting taken down. It's already under contract to get removed. So this is the start of it. And I understand exactly what you're saying. Maybe pick which one you want to do. But there's all these different projects going on. And again, the same thing with the Bradford one. We dumped a bunch of money into it last year to get it through that first phase. At what point we get to the marina at that point, but it's at least the cap it to get it, keep the process going. That's what this funding is for. We can possibly get some dredging and capping out of that. So it'll be up to the council, everybody else to decide what direction it's going. There's private or public, so, or a public-private partnership or whatever, so.
So the subcommittee took our jobs. We looked at the long term, thought it was our popcorn stand, what we work on, what we think is important and what questions need to be asked and answered. But to your point earlier, Mr. Chairman, the grand total of this whole list is $45 million, $45,219,000, of which the bond upgrade is 333. Yeah, and then the broad bond is 6 million. So the direct impact potentially of all the options on here, excluding all the bond stuff, is about 10, almost $11 million that the council can figure out.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
Figure out the.
Wait, yeah, if there's another number in there, but plus or minus. So that's basically it. And
Just a comment, there's a 12 million, keep in mind, that is a true number, but some of that is funded to the transfer enterprise side.
Yep.
Water enterprise side,
Yes.
sewer enterprise side, where a certain portion of that would be direct to the general budget side, depending on how it's divided up.
And one question that I had, and
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it and stuff. Typically, last year, what was our capital budget amount?
It was about $7-8 million,
About 7 million?
between $7 and $8 million.
Okay.
So this is on track. If you take the water, the sewer, the transfer out, you're probably, I think, I don't have or I do have my
Right.
sheet, but it was a little over 8 million, I think, was the total on the general side. You could break that out of there, John, and
Because the water and sewer are an enterprise fund.
separate budget,
And also-
totally separate budgets, yeah.
So that's
And
our,
transfer.
that's our report.
One last thing, wanted to thank the town manager for his time tonight, putting together this project, all the department heads, everybody we met was great. Really appreciate all the work that everybody put into, making this as easy as possible for us.
I appreciate you guys reporting back. So our next step is to take what you guys have here and turn this into a recommendation to the town council. Typically what we've done in the past is taken this and we've highlighted, any of the things that we've listed as sort of the highest priorities for us. And you guys have listed this. Oh, go ahead.
You want us back up there?
If you'd like, or we can
Yeah.
discuss it from here, whichever way. That we've looked at this and you guys have sort of ranked these already, across the board from all of the categories, from A to I already, from the planning board's perspective. But what I wanted to give, all members of the board, the opportunity to do, based on what the subcommittee put together, what we talked through tonight, is to take a look and see, based on this, is there anything that you see on here as we talk through them tonight, where you say, this is something that, maybe it falls on the bottom of page 1, middle of page 2, that based on our discussions, the things that we've gone through this year, the things that have come before this board that you see as something that maybe doesn't score necessarily as high when we look at it from points A through H. But we as a board, having seen this come before us a number of times, is something that we think is, more worthy of the town council's consideration, simply because it's something that we know might affect our ability as a board to do our jobs when it comes to reviewing, approving land development within the town. So I know last year when we reviewed this, one of the things that we looked at was I'll throw it out there, one of the things that was high on our priority list was the 800K for the sewer media upgrade. Was one of the things that we made a priority, because we said that's something that's a high priority on the planning board because it impacts the ability for development in the town. So it's one of the things we put as one of our highest priorities on the list. So is there anything along those lines that you guys went through this tonight that you identified and say, this is something we want to make sure that we're telling the town council, this is one of our highest priorities that we wanted to identify?
One other thing, if there's anything on here that the members, because we all got these booklets
Mhm.
and we all had this information, is there anything on there that you think we missed and you would like to add to it? So I think just if there's anything additional that the subcommittee didn't consider.
I mean, just because we were just talking about the sort of the recreational facilities, I think it would be helpful to just sort of focus on one and get it online, get it to be operational. If that's at all possible, that would be my sort of recommendation on those. We could focus on one and even, put more priority on it and get it to be either less expense for the town or even some sort of income generating, like this Atlantic Avenue property. If it were upgraded, that it could then start, paying for itself. I don't know if the 100
Yeah.
grand is enough or.
Yeah, no, that was one of the things we talked about was, want to prioritize one of the rec projects, let's do it and get it done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may. I see another way of going about dealing with the rec facilities. I know that all of these facilities are underway in terms of some type of development or environmental assessment and the like. The feeling I got from the board and the discussion was that I think you're looking for information on the return on investment within these properties. What is it actually doing? And I think I know from experience with all of these projects that it's all for different reasons. And it may just be that because there was a lot of money coming out of the federal government recently, that all these projects got started at the same time. But I think putting 3 of them on the back burner and just focusing on one is probably not the right thing to do yet. I think we need to continue the process of investigating more and then making the selection in terms of further investment. But I think what's going on now is key to these projects continuing and for us to not have wasted money and time on them. So I would suggest that you maybe discuss the recreational facilities in general and say, if this is going to become a priority for the town, because you've already put a lot of effort into it, then let us focus on what these facilities are going to mean to the community so that the return on the investment is something that is tangible.
So just if I can try to bridge what you're saying and what James is saying is that we've invested some money already into the investigations of these properties into where we're at now. We may not know which one of these is the best one to to your point, spend the money on and get that one going first. So I think the idea is continue until we get to a point where we know where that's gonna be, and that is where they need to focus on, is getting to a point where they know when you can get one of these up, and then focus your energy on trying to get one of them advanced as quickly as possible without letting the other ones lapse. So your priorities wouldn't be 100% on one, 0 on the other, but it might shift to a 80% on one and 20% on the other, so you continue to advance the others, but focus the majority of your energies on the one you can get the biggest return on your investment on.
I understand what Nancy's saying. I guess as a business owner, I just fundamentally don't necessarily agree with that philosophy. I take every dollar very seriously. And I don't believe in throwing good money after bad. And it's not, I'm not necessarily saying it's bad money, but I don't know, a more succinct way of putting it other than I have a different feeling. I mean, we're from different backgrounds. That's why we're all here, like I'm a business person and I think that way. And so that's,
I'm thinking first from a maintenance standpoint.
no, I
Like,
understand.
if I'm
We
like-
talked about, we talked about Canal Street. It's like, putting the roof on the building, I get that, but it's a stone foundation. Like if that roof caves in, I don't see any huge issue with it, even the.
And let me put too fine a point on it. We just went through this on the board here. Who's been to Ozo's, the new restaurant at the top of the hill, right? Anybody know what happened to the stone building that was there when they were in the midst of replacing that roof?
Right,
What happened?
gave away.
It caved
But
away
the-
because the
but
roof
it goes-
collapsed and
It goes to
the
the functional question.
building bowed out and collapsed.
Well,
because the roof
is the
gave
building
way.
gonna be, yep, sorry, go ahead, John.
So,
James is asking a different, I think a different question. You got a stone building there. What are you gonna use it for?
I don't know, that's the point.
Okay, you want to throw a roof on it. What are you gonna throw a roof on it?
That's.
And if the roof falls in and the building disappears,
And-
you still use it for passive recreation.
And that's.
So those are the kind of questions that we as a board are asking. Right, exactly.
We don't know the answer to that question. They may know the answer to that question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think you have apples and eggs. The building that fell down mysteriously under some penumbra of circumstances during the development of that property, I don't think that really has any bearing here. However, to James's point, we put budgets together because we're looking for outcomes. And outcomes become manifest when we start to have results. And I really do think that if we prioritize these different projects, and it's like, okay, let's take the one that's most viable, whether it's based on need, whether it's based on location, whether it's based on which one could be advanced the quickest, and get it done, and then bring the next ones along and bring them online. Otherwise, concern here is it'll be possibly just constantly getting poked, and 5 years down the road, we're going to be sitting right where we are right now. And the community that we're trying to serve has something coming, but no one knows, as opposed to 5 years from now, we've got 2, and the others will come quicker because more money is now available for those as time goes on, as they're getting developed.
So if we had, in an ideal world, I think a good recommendation that I think is kind of coming out of this in different ways is the town has a master plan for its rec facilities. I think it's time that the council would reacquaint itself. And a recommendation is we should, if they want us to do it, or they want to do it, or they want to task us to do it, but reevaluate that master plan and then say, do I want to add anything else to the pile? Or do I want to go passive recreation? The definition of passive recreation, which is I've got an empty lot, I can go walk there, I can go do things there. It's by the river, much like Westerly.
Let me just back up for one
Right.
second, all right? Because
Yeah.
I just want to get through this real quick.
Sure.
We're spending half an hour now on this, on the last 5 items on your priority list. we're supposed to be prioritizing the things we want the highest priority for them to consider, not spending half an hour on the 5 things at the bottom of the list that we don't really concern ourselves with from a planning standpoint if they pass or fail. So I get what we're getting at, but we're kind of not focusing on the things that we prioritized at the top. We're
But-
starting at the bottom and working backwards.
I think you just hit the nail on the head because they are at the bottom of the list because they're not creating something big.
Right.
So how are we gonna get them to the top of the list is sort of, I feel like what I'm saying. How can we get some of these projects to the top of the list? Now, they might all fall off when the council gets them, and then we're really in a bad position for recreation. So I don't know, that's just the way I see it, like find something that can
Well, then I
be more of a priority.
And then I guess I go back to what
Can
James,
move up.
I guess I go back to what James's point was earlier is how many more trails do we need? Do we have enough recreation
Right.
facilities, which is what John's point was? And is that a priority for this board to send to the town council that we need more recreation facilities? So that's my question is, do we want to spend time debating those bottom 5 or do we want to spend time talking about what are the ones we think
I think,
are within ours?
I think generally we just need to, for all of this, and I couldn't agree with you more. With all of this, we just say, there needs to be a reality check with regard, or if money's no object, every idea is a great idea, but money is an object. And so we just ask that they reevaluate it.
That's
That'd
not
be the
true. There's
recommendation.
plenty of bad ideas, even if money's.
Yeah,
no
there is,
object.
and there's plenty of bad ideas too.
Oh, I forgot the guy's name. Ask MC Hammer. He built a house and that was a terrible idea. And ultimately it was an object, yeah. He is bankrupt, so that was a terrible idea. All right, so I guess, so let me go back then. Let's start at the top of the list and to Perry's point, Perry wanted to prioritize some of the recreation, at least in a general sense, that we want the recreational budget to be more comprehensive and identify priorities within the recreational budget. And that is something that we'd like them to focus on. And that, as in a general sense, encompasses, I think, what we're asking them to do. And I think that's something we can all agree on, right? Is that in a general sense, we want the recreational budget to be more strategic in how they're spending and to have a more focused approach to the projects that they're funding and working towards.
Right, and I think along those lines, strategic is upgrade existing facilities.
So I think that's fine. Is there anything on this list, though, that we have that doesn't fall within, say, that top 5 or 6 that we're looking at here, which all really, when you look at it, fall within security, water, and wastewater? I mean, you look at that first page, that's everything that's on there is water, wastewater, and security for the school. Is there anything else that we have on here that's not captured in our priority list from the planning board? No, I know. I'm just asking, after you guys have had a chance now to go through this and you're looking back on it, is there anything where you're saying, now that we've scored it, we've looked back on it, this is something that we're doing it? And then adversely to that, is there anything on that first list where you look at it and say, yes, this is an important item and it scores very high, but from a planning board standpoint, it doesn't necessarily mean as much to us as a planning board from a development standpoint as it does necessarily to the town, to the council, to other organizations within the town. So like, for example, what did we just mention? If I go to the top of page 2 and we talk about, body cams and police department, that may not necessarily rise to the level of something the planning board is concerned about, but it's a public safety issue. But it may not be a high priority for us necessarily because it doesn't really lead to directly to development, although it does play into safety and public safety for development things, but it's not necessarily a direct line from one to the other. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking questions to see if
I'm
it
trying to
prompts
understand.
anything.
I'm trying to understand your train of thought here. Is it, are you, not to put it bluntly, but like selfishly, are you saying like selfishly, are there things we want to put up there? that
Yeah,
are
I mean,
more-
that's our job. Our job is to look at this from our perspective on the planning board and say, exactly, very selfishly as the planning board, these are the things we would like the town council to fund because they help us do our job. They help the town, they help the town from a development standpoint. And that's, you know, ultimately what our role is. So that's why I said last year, we looked at it and we said, one of the highest priority things that we looked at was stuff for the wastewater treatment plant. And that's kind of how you've scored it. So all I'm asking is there anything on here when you look at this that didn't necessarily score as high, but as you look at it now, you might think in hindsight, maybe even though it didn't score as high, might fall into that category. That's all I'm getting at. So I am saying, look at it selfishly, only from that standpoint of, I want to make sure we capture any of those items.
And I just philosophically think on, excuse me, is it okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think that our role here in capital budget isn't just it is.
No, I'm not saying
no,
it's just, I'm
no,
just saying I want
it-
to,
no,
to
but
make sure you have.
I don't
the
even
perspective.
think it's a factor in here. I think what we are doing when we talk about capital, when we're talking about infrastructure, and we're talking about the town long-term vision, is we're talking about creating an environment, and then out of that environment of, it's a safe town, it's got clean water, it's got good sewers, it's got good roads, it's got good, solid infrastructure, and buildings, et
Exactly.
cetera, then that is a natural, the development's a natural outgrowth.
Exactly.
Of that. It's not a factor, I don't think, in our evaluation of
No,
capital.
you're right, those are exactly the things I'm getting at, that those are the selfish things we look at from that perspective. Those are the things that help development in the town. Look, selfishly, that's what we want from a planning board. Exactly. Those are selfishly, that's what we look at. So things that may not, for example, I don't know, I can't think like the town manager just left, you were talking about, replacing the computers every 5 years. If they replace the computers every 7 years, would that really make a difference for us development wise? Probably not. Selfishly, we might put that lower on the priority list because it doesn't affect us from that planning board standpoint.
I think,
So it affects you right now, exactly, because your computer's not up right now.
yeah, I think, yeah.
So that's my point. So that's
No,
why,
no,
that's
good
what I'm
point.
getting at is that, is there anything from that, perspective, from the planning board perspective you're looking at that you say, this is something we didn't score high enough, this is something we should highlight? That doesn't seem like it fell within that realm that we should have.
Personally, can I just,
I drove everyone out of the room.
not that priority wasn't high, but like, roads and sidewalk at $6 million, at rates at 81.5. I mean, I would think that would be at the top. I don't know how you'd expend $6 million and roads, drainage, sidewalk, road, sidewalk and drainage improvements throughout the town of Westerly. I can't see that not being on the first page.
That's a good point. See, that's exactly what I'm getting at. That's something that falls squarely within the infrastructure, squarely within the stuff that we've talked about all throughout this about, reducing our, flow into the Pawcatuck River, reducing our loading. That's something that, we've talked about quite a bit. So that's exactly it. Like, that's something that kind of fell in the scoring for whatever reason, but when we look at it through the light of what we've seen throughout the year, we can kind of hindsight being 2020, say, all right, that's something we probably need to bump up on our list. So Madam
We,
Planner, oh, go ahead.
well, we just going off of what their department put, they had it at an 80, so we actually made it like
Made it
a
a
little
little
bit higher than what they had, not saying that it's not important. I'm just, we did look at their own assessment
Mhm.
of it. And also, we looked a lot at this protection of life, this little chart here, which has different weightings. And I don't know, like, we do have roads and sidewalks. Maybe, I don't know how much protection of life, if we didn't have them, but they're there, maybe they need repair. So, I mean, we did look at what the department had scored them at.
Sure. No, I'm not No, I'm not faulting at all. That's why I wanted to kind of relook at it and say, does anything kind of rise to that level of, yeah, this is something we've talked about throughout the year that doesn't necessarily score within that priority list the way that we would necessarily see it, given what we did. I mean, I don't know, the way here tonight, it's raining out. I drove by that parking lot at Ozo because every time it rains, I drive by and look at that drainage structure to see whether or not the sand traps have filled in with water yet, and they still have not.
Yeah.
But it also has yet to overflow into the Route 1 yet, so
Yeah.
that's good, because that means it's still
Mhm.
draining into the
Okay.
subsurface, so,
Now
Yeah.
whoops.
yeah, no, it is. It's
Hmm.
draining in from the road. The roads are draining into it, so it is.
Just one thing on roads.
Yes.
So in the operating budget, the annual budget, there is road maintenance is in the budget typically. And that's for, grinding and resurfacing, okay, which extends the life of a road. By the way, when I was on the council, I asked, how many miles of roads do we have? We have approximately 180 miles of road that the town maintains in town. 180 miles. It's like amazing. And I thought it was an amazing number, actually. So, and then I asked, how long would a road last? And they said 20 years. So that means every year, in order to resurface your roads, you've got to do about 9 miles of road. Now, you have to subtract out of that, we passed an ordinance way back when, that said that if National Grid broke up a road, they got to do things curb to curb, so they do about 3 miles of road. So what it ended up being is somewhere you need to do 6 miles of road. The bond money typically is when you have to do a full road over, you're ripping the road completely up, you're ripping the sidewalks up, you're redoing the storm drains, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So, and that's what that money's reserved for, typically has been reserved for here. So it's a combination of, yes, capital budget for the full reclamation, the full redos, but then the normal just overlayments, that comes out of the maintenance.
And yes,
So if I could summarize the first page here, for the planner, because we're talking about sort of summarizing this in a memo to go to the town council. I think our highest priorities, sort of if I group these, are really center around water and sewer. I mean, that is, and well, I'm
Public
gonna get
safety.
saying on that page, I mean, everything other than school, IT, and one item on sewer, everything on there is water. That's the number one grouping on that page is that. The next item that we have, oh, go ahead, Madam Planner.
When you're done, I kind of broke them down into three things
Three
myself.
things?
Yeah.
Okay. The other was, I was gonna say is school, and then the last, the school security. And the other was the, fiber, network, the IT infrastructure,
Okay.
project. So if I group them, it's sort of those three. It's water, sewer, the
And
school security, and the IT
security.
infrastructure.
so that's where I had water quality protection, number one.
Yep.
I had sewer facility, again, water quality coming out of the sewer facility. Seemed to be number two. And the third one would be security measures that include updating IT, school facilities, and public safety measures. That's how I was going to group them.
And then group those three items and then group the item codes underneath it the way we have previously. So it has those item codes, underneath.
I don't know what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to come up with the categories
right.
so that Mr. Gagne can explain what in this table falls
Yep.
under them.
Under the-
But so that I can also provide you with the comprehensive plan consistency information. So I think I have a good understanding of how I can handle those three that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then I would like to again, go back to the rec facilities, just in terms of what your suggestion was to prioritize the investments, upgrading existing facilities, and we'll check the current recreation plan to see which part of these is consistent with the rec plan. And that could just simply be a statement of consistency as well.
Right.
That's all we really.
And I think the last piece of it, if I could, because I think
Sure.
what you had mentioned earlier, I think plays into the point they were making is to identify where the town gets its best return on the investments.
Okay, the ROI, yeah. Yeah.
Now, the one thing, the first top priority is school security. Even though it's school related, it's still public safety.
It is. So that's why I put them all together.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It's linked that way,
I said
public
like
safety.
security measures,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
all of them together and the school being the top one, okay?
Public safety for some of our most important citizens, yes.
Okay. So do you want that to be first
I
then?
think, yeah, put that first since it's the
One.
highest scoring one.
Water's two,
Water two.
sewer,
three.
quality three, and then four is
Is-
the rec discussion. Okay, so I'll just simply do a consistency with a comprehensive plan discussion on those four categories. And Mr. Gagne, you all can put together however you want to do it. I'll just
And,
provide it to you
and the rec, consistency with that long-term,
with the rec.
document that the town purchased from the consultant.
Yeah,
Master plan.
master plan,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Excellent. All
All
right,
right, so
agree.
that's-
Oh,
that's
go ahead, Derek.
I just wanted to bring up, since we're emphasizing sewer and water, the bus garage parking, is that the Springbrook lot or?
Yes, it is.
So I know you put the time and effort into the memo about moving the lot for water security purposes. I mean, is there some, since water is a
Isn't that on here?
priority? No, what I'm saying, like attaching it to the priority items, like, should we somehow addressing that memo, your memo, to what we're doing here, whether or not we're gonna spend $350 improving the parking garage?
Well, that's just for cameras, which it gets ride reimbursement on.
All right.
So whether the cameras go in.
The paving, it says paving though? Okay. Bus garage parking lot paving, but all right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pave it?
No, I think there's two things. There's two different things. There's one that's for cameras and one.
Nice.
for
There's
paving.
One for paving for $350,000.
Right.
So gonna be little.
So I know he'd put the effort into doing that memo. I don't know if we would put something in there about considering his moving of the parking garage attached to this.
I think it's a separate issue.
Yeah, I think.
That the
this-
town
yeah,
council
the town council
tackled
took up last night.
separately, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
And I think the school, as the school committee, as the town council, as there's discussions on that, they may elect to hold off on that.
Yeah, there was a whole-
Repurpose it, who knows?
yeah, there was a discussion last night on
Well,
that at the town council. So I think we can leave that one alone for now.
Just, do you want to, speaking of, we talked earlier
Yeah.
about quality checkpoints. Did you want to do a quality checkpoint with I'm happy to see that we got 3 town councilors here to listen to capital.
I think we'll wait till we get to the end.
Okay,
So-
sure.
But at the other thing is, when we get to the agenda items at the end, I think just to get an update from you from last night.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, are there any other questions from members of the council on the capital improvement? Okay. Just because it's not a public hearing, so I don't want to bring people up. That's the reason why. Okay. The next item on the agenda, that we have this evening is, item E2, which is the planning board meeting schedules for 2026. This is a review, discussion, and approval of the meeting schedule for 2026. You should have all received the meeting schedule. No real surprises, for next year. Pretty much
No, it's actually, there's no conflicts with any Monday holidays or weeks off or 4th of July or anything. So it worked out kind of well. So sticking with the third Tuesday of the month.
mhm.
So just need your approval and then we'll get you the, something that doesn't say draft for you to sign.
Motion to approve, the schedule for 2026.
Second.
Any comments or questions from members of the board? All right, hearing none, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. That was easy enough. All right, our first item of new business this evening I suppose we can take a 5-minute break. Yes, we can. That will be our first order of new business. Time now is 8:19. We're going to adjourn and we will return here at 8:25. Time is 8:25. Call the meeting back to order. Our next order of business is item F1. That is an introduction to Phase 1 zoning ordinance revisions. This is a review and discussion of progress of zoning ordinance amendments in preparation for review, discussion, and possible recommendations to the town council on December 16th, 2025. Madam Planner?
Thank you very much. So this evening, I just want to go over the spreadsheet that I provided, which gives you a status review of the entire zoning ordinance and what has been amended to date and is ready to go to the town council for review, and what is on hold and why, okay? So it falls into three categories. If you look down the column that at the top is labeled November 2025 position. That's the column that I've been updating over the course of the last couple of years. Because this process started in 2020 at an administrative level and began with the planning board in 2022. So it's been going on for quite some time. The majority of the changes that are being proposed are some format changes, or they're changes to language that were required in order to remain consistent with state law. And that was even before the 2023, 24, and 25 legislation circus, I'd like to call it. So what we've done, what the staff had done in 2020 was created amendment language that brought things up to date as of 2020 from all the way from 2015. And then so all of the past few years, we've been making all of the more dramatic changes that the state law has required. Most of those are taking place in the areas of process, okay? There are a lot of them that have taken effect with regard to housing, particularly affordable housing. And although we don't have a zoning ordinance that reflects them, we have been applying the state law because it usurps the local zoning in these matters. Okay, any question about that before I move on? Okay.
I've got a question on this. As I look at this document, I can't tell where we're at.
Okay.
Like
so
what's been completed and what hasn't. So,
we tell-
well,
no.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to address what you just said, what you were just saying.
Thank you.
So we have the state laws, we have our local zoning ordinances.
Yes.
And you'd like to bring those two more into sync. My question is this:
Yes.
when the state changes their mind, as they frequently do,
Mhm.
are we gonna be back to what's the harm? Let's just say, choose one. What's the harm in having an ordinance that we like better as a town that's not necessarily in compliance with the state, or not necessarily in sync with the state? But if by law we have to apply the state standard, we apply the state standard, and then when it changes next year or the year after that or whatever, we've still got our local ordinances that reflect our views as a community.
So legislatively, we have a requirement to update the zoning ordinance annually. That has not been done in the past. Of course, it has, the reasons for that could be varied. Maybe because there were only slight adjustments for such a long time, or there was anyone active in the planning department that could make the changes. There's lots of reasons, but with the most recent changes to state law, I believe it's absolutely necessary that we bring the zoning ordinance into compliance. will serve this board, the zoning board, the zoning department, the planning department, and the development community much better if we have an up-to-date ordinance. Now, this is just bringing it up to date with state law. And if you look down that column that I was telling you about, everything that's in blue that says, will say accepted by planning board in 2024, again in 2025, or approved by planning board in 2025. Everything in blue is ready to go in that column, is ready to go to the council, okay? All the way through. The items that.
But
are
blue
not-
means done, from our perspective.
blue
Blue
in that
we've
column.
approved, we've done, we're good.
Yeah, we're done,
Okay,
we're good, okay? And if there's any questions or concerns about any of that, now's your chance, because it's going to the council. Okay, and this has been through the rigor.
Sure. And
Step-
some of these things were done in 2023 based on the notes on it.
Yes, some of it was. Now,
Well-
if you see in the position from May of 2024, something, a note, it means that it's half done, that there are other things that need to get done or are being suggested to be done, but we're holding off on those until a phase 2 of changes. The most effective way of updating a zoning code is to do it in 2 phases. Phase 1, get up to date with all of the state regulations, get rid of all of the things that have been confusing people for the last decade or more. Make the tweaks that the staff know are going to help clarify position, et cetera. And then phase 2 is, all right, let's go in and let's do a deep dive into our use table, our dimensional requirements. Do we really need all of these overlays? Do we want to change what requires a special use permit? That's phase 2, okay? So my recommendation is right there in that column under November 2025 of which ones need to be done together, okay? If they're in gray, you might see it says must be done in sync with district and overlay removals, okay? Must be done in sync with district and overlay removals. So those would be phase 2, right? The one thing, the few things that you can look through that whole list and you can email me with any questions you have between now and the 16th. I'm more than happy to explain it to you. I kind of geek out on legislation, so this is fun for me, believe it or not. But there are just a couple of things that I want to point out that need your immediate attention. And I just had the same conversation with Chris Duhamel, because I wanted him to make sure that he understood and could communicate this to the town council. Right after the first of the year, I think certain items need to be addressed right away. And they are the items towards the end that are in red. Okay? They are the affordable housing initiatives, particularly the revision of single family, 2-family, 3-family residential, multifamily dwellings of 4 or more units, mixed-use development, and home occupations. Those have to be done to address the types of housing that we need. And also to address what the state is requiring of this community in terms of further affordable housing. With these changes, and also housing for all, not just LMI deed restricted housing. When I say affordable housing, I'm saying affordable for anyone, okay? Not deed restricted housing. That's LMI. That's the 10%. I'm talking about, in general, affordable housing and more housing opportunities.
Well, what is that? What are the income levels and thresholds are we talking about? Because affordable housing for anyone, there are homeless people out there that don't have a dime. There's-
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's the low and
Okay.
very low income. So that's the LMI, okay?
yeah,
When I'm talking about, affordable housing, I'm talking about things that are not previously subsidized or there's no deed restriction on them. So you, you can, they're maybe designed or built or of a certain type that someone who is, say, has an income of $86,000 a year can actually buy a house. Okay, $250,000, $350,000 homes. We need those. Everyone needs it. We need those in this community. So, and I know it's a long shot, but this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an atmosphere where it's possible.
but with construction costs being around $300 a square foot,
I know. There's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is we can reduce, we can make things more affordable to build, okay? By reducing the land costs, okay? So make lots smaller, okay? Allow buildings to be taller and not wider. All of these things, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. I'm saying this is the discussion we
is-
have to have.
right, and those are potential. The other potential is we open up Route 1, as we have, for more flexibility in building and having residential and mixed use, et cetera.
That,
In other words,
that works for multifamily, as we discussed.
right, because, yeah, we've got to deal with the balancing out of the environmental, and all this other stuff.
But these are the ones that are going to help us implement the Route 1 plan.
Right,
So
those are going to be a challenge.
after the first of the year, my suggestion is that the town address these items specifically. And then there are some other things in here that that should probably be moved around and can be consolidated. And there's others that quite frankly, don't belong in a zoning ordinance. So they should be removed and a new chapter in the town code created for them. But at the same time, they do need to be reviewed by town engineer, DPW, utilities director, et cetera, due to the antiquity of the contents. So those were my recommendations, and this too, I hope will be received by the town council for what it is, which is guidance and possible direction. So
Mr. Chairman.
that's where we're at.
Good. This spreadsheet has a lot of work in it. And what we have here between the initial columns and the different phases and the golden apple on the other end is a column that shows the potential impacts for good or ill for this community. I appreciate the geeking out on the legislation. I do that too. In the forums that ask me to do that kind of stuff, I bring the information back and share it to them. Repeatedly from this board, I've asked you to do the same thing. When things come forward or there's proposed legislation, that we understand what it is before it actually gets into law, where the towns may actually have the chance to provide some input. Other communities where I've seen their town planners involved with this, they do a very, very good job at letting the boards and letting the people know what the potential impacts are. So this I see here is we don't have anything. As an example, well, do we really need all these overlays? Well, when all the interesting overlays involved with each individual community are removed, the character of that community starts to look faceless because we're all reflecting what's good for the state is good for the community. So I think we really need some time to be able to look at these and understand these as impactful or beneficial as they may be before we can move this forward with any kind of recommendation, I think.
I don't think
town
we're
council.
we're not looking at removing any overlays between now and the 16th.
That was,
No, no, no.
No, no.
I
that's
was
phase-
just responding to a comment that
Yeah,
was
that's
made
phase-
earlier.
Yeah, that was phase 2 and that's down the road.
Phase two is down the road, but it's still going to happen.
Yeah, and that's when we discuss if there's any of
Oh.
those overlays we want to remove. Like, so we just discussed removing the bed and breakfast overlay from one of them because it became redundant. So we took it out from that area.
Mhm.
But that was a discussion we had as a group and as a board to remove that one element of it. Because of very specific reasons. It's not just going in and removing overlays because.
I understand that.
Removing it, yeah,
I understand that. But what I'm seeing here, there's a lot to this.
certainly.
Some of it's very straightforward.
Mhm.
Some of it's not because the magic is going to happen in another phase, but we don't know what the potential impacts to the community are going to be. If you adopt one thing, then at that point, okay, you make a change. Well, what's going to come after that change when people start looking to do projects, build houses or whatever? We also have an item in here that I latched onto pretty quickly while I was at home. Honor of this between line 20 and 21 on the first page, town planner, add assistant town planner, AKA principal planner. So for towns that don't have those, is it just a placeholder or are we taking footsteps to creating a position that will have to be supported by
That,
the town?
that item, it says sent to TM, town manager. Okay, that's in the hands of the town manager at this point. And it's not been included in the packet in the packet of amendments that are being forwarded to the council. Okay,
But when we
there
go,
was,
to your point, when we go to review this, we don't understand necessarily what this means.
well, follow down the column, anything that's in blue that already says reviewed by the planning board. Okay, that's what's in these packets that you, the information that you receive via email. That's what's in there. And there's very, very few items in there that are negotiable. The majority of everything, and I'm gonna say like 95.8% of them, okay, is state law and changes in process.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm looking at the board here now as I'm sitting here and I think I might be the only one that was here. You may have been here for part of it. Was Chris here when all these came down? No, I was, when I think it was, yes, I think it might have been even then. So when all these started coming down from you mentioned before about, why didn't we know about these in advance? We did. When all this stuff was still legislation that was proposed, every meeting, when we got to the solicitor's report, every meeting ended with Scott spending a good half an hour, 45 minutes going through, these are all the legislative items that are in front of the General Assembly right now that they are voting on. Here's when the votes are happening. Here's what they're considering. Here are the bills that they're proposing. And here's what their implications would be. And here's what this might have to do with our code. So all of that stuff that you just said about, going through that with that, when these were actually before the General Assembly, all that information was presented to the board at that time. But that time that it was in front of the General Assembly was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was a long time ago when it was in front of.
And
the
how
General
much
Assembly.
input did we send back to Federal Hills saying, not happening here?
So, but to Mr. Devine's point, if I may, I think as we encounter these, we are gonna need to hear from the solicitor for a refresher course, because a number of new members are up here and find out what is absolutely not negotiable, meaning under state law, and what are the recommendations coming out of statewide planning or any other initiatives that don't carry that same weight. So, but you're right. I mean, but we need to get up to speed before, as we're dealing with them.
So I just want to make sure you're talking about the items that are in gray that we're going to take take up? Or are you talking about going back and restarting this process over again?
No.
For the items
As
that are.
As we're encountering an item in gray and it is
Okay.
related to
All right.
state law or red
Really?
item. that is
You
related to
really
state
made
item.
my heart
No,
go
it's not.
flutter.
Sure, buddy.
I was,
No,
oh, please don't make it go through this again.
But it's not, it's unfair to members who weren't here, right? Picture that. If
Yeah.
I were sitting here and I wasn't here and I didn't have any of that background, and now I have to ask to be, I want to hear from the solicitor to hear, okay, here's what they did, here's what happened. And realize we are shooting at a
Oh, yeah.
target.
No,
all the
I got
time.
you. I
Cause they'll
got
be
you.
back in session and come up with another bunch of stuff.
I got you. No.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
you. You scared me when you said that. I was like, oh my God, please tell me you're not advocating to go back and restart this again. My heart went a flutter.
That's okay. You know me, I'm the geek on that. I'd advocate
I
for it.
was like, please, please no. I can't do 2 more years of zoning regulations. All right. No, absolutely. I understand that. Yeah, as we go through each one of these, when we get into phase 2, that's exactly what the process is. And that's how we did the last time, is we went through the changes. Nancy, flagged the last time with, here's the actual code from the state law that says, here's what you must do. And then here's what that change would be reflected in ours. So you could see side by each what that reflected, so that you could see what it said, that the town shall do, how we changed our code to reflect that, and then where we went from that. So I think that's how we did that the last time, correct, Nancy?
And I can be a little bit more specific, so, about this. So, I separated these into three separate exhibits,
Mhm.
okay? The first one, Exhibit A.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about for phase 2 is what I was saying.
Oh,
When
you
we-
were talking about.
Yeah, for phase 2, when we do this the next time. Yeah, no, I'm not advocating go through and do that again.
Yeah, I just want to, but I also, I'm sorry, I do want to add something about
Yes.
phase 1, so that when,
Yep.
if you're looking at it between now and the 16th, you can understand why they were kind of packaged up the way they are. Exhibit A is really all of the, it's, it's, sorry. I've got a terrible headache, so I'm trying to work through it. So there are some items in here for clarification purposes. There was some items that were discussed by the board and little tweaks were made. The majority of these are definitions that have changed over time, with the, state legislation, and procedural matters, process statements, and just some cross references to the state law. Exhibit B,
If I could.
If
real
I
quick,
may.
One of the things we did do, I'll just say something more. One of the things we did try to do when we did this to simplify it is, whenever possible, rather than reiterate what was in the state law, we tried to reference it instead. So instead of saying, let me cut and paste everything in the state law into ours, we just reference the state law to make it a simpler way to do it than trying to replicate it and then link to the state law within it to make it easier. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The references to exhibits A and B and whatever, what are those?
It's what was sent out to us via email.
It was sent out at 4:42 in the afternoon of Wednesday, the 26th of November. That's less than 7 days. In keeping with
yes.
Article 22, I would move that we lay those on the table for the next meeting.
It is for the next
It
meeting.
is for the next meeting. I'm
It's
just
for-
trying to describe
It's
it.
for the next meeting. Today's just an overview of it to prepare us so we know what we're reviewing for the next meeting.
I'm just trying to describe to you what is included, so that when you review it between now and the 16th, you'll have some better understanding. That's all. Exhibit B. These are excerpts from 2 chapters in the ordinance. Development plan review has changed. To the extent that it is changed, it is reflected in this section. But what has not changed is how development plan review is done. It's just what goes through development plan review has changed. So it's been provided as a repeal and replace, so there's no question. I invite you to do a side-by-side comparison if you think you need to do that. But hopefully you can read it and understand it the way it is. Unified Development Review is the new process that's been introduced. You've already experienced that, giving a special use permit or variance along with approval. There's changes to rear lot development. That in fact, I would appreciate your review and your feedback on, because that is something that is not being directed by the state. That is section 26047. If you want to write that down, rear lots. And then it's all the affordable housing stuff that is required of us. Previously, when doing inclusionary zoning, the town council decided to remove the fee in lieu. That was their option to make. That's what they decided to do. The other option to including LMI deed restricted units through the inclusionary zoning is to develop them off-site. Previously, this board had decided that they did not like that recommendation and has chosen to remove it. But I think what we did was we reserved a line for it in case it ever wanted to go back in. Yeah, and the process for the comprehensive permit was the only major change that was made in 2025 General Assembly that affects what you have here. And so that is probably the only thing you haven't seen is the tweaks that was made. They took master plan out and they put master plan back, but as an option for the applicant. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as what they gave us in 2024 and the members of this board previously saw it. So that's the one that's really centered on housing, and that rear lot development has been amended in order to increase the opportunities for infill at the same density as our current neighborhood presence. So just take a look at that, and then I can describe that to you with some slides as well. And then the final one is Exhibit C. This is just Article 7. There isn't a lot of changes in Article 7. Oh, wait a second. One that I printed out doesn't work. I'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that. It didn't print out with the red lines. Sorry about that. I have no idea. But, oh, again, this is the special use permits, the variances, that stuff,
Mr. Chairman,
the zoning. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
at the risk of sounding obtuse and obstructive, perhaps I did not make myself clear. There is a motion before this body regarding these materials. I made a motion that we lay them on the table. They're being reviewed, they're being presented. And why aren't we doing this in the next meeting?
So again, the order of business,
Sorry,
if I
I
could.
didn't mean to go from proposed motion to discussion.
Well, you made a motion.
You made a motion, no
I
one
made a motion.
seconded your motion. And if I could, to address what you just said, I'm going to again read what the order of business we're doing. So please, the order of business is F1, introduction to Phase 1 zoning ordinance revisions. A review and discussion of the progress of the zoning ordinance amendments in preparation for review, discussion, and possible recommendation to the town council on December 16th, 2025. All that the planner is doing is outlining the materials that were provided to us so that you understand the materials in your hand, so that you can review them after this meeting, prior to the next meeting, when we will actually review them. We are not taking any action on these items this meeting. She's just telling you the items that were handed out to
Understood.
you almost 3 weeks before the meeting, that you're actually required to do anything for them.
So F1 with its attachment, proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance is what I understood F1 to be. These documents were delivered later. Hence, why don't we just leave them for review and discussion as noted in the email for the next meeting in toto?
All that the planner is doing is describing what the documents are so that your review outside of this meeting between now and then is more productive. I think all the members here, and I can poll the members for you if you think it would be productive, and I will poll the members. Chris, did you find it productive for the planner to describe what was in those exhibits?
Yes, I did.
James, did you find it productive that the planner described what was in the exhibits?
Yes.
James, did you? Did you find it productive?
Yes.
Did you find it productive? I found it productive. All she did was tell us what was in the exhibits so that when we review them, we have a better understanding as to what we're reviewing. There was no action taken on it. There was nothing to table. All it was to tell us what we received so you'd understanding of it. That is why no one seconded your motion, because there was nothing really to move on.
I appreciate your perspective. I respectfully disagree.
Yes,
I also just want to say, I don't know who mentioned it, but reiterate that it would be helpful to have what is required by the state and what we're able to modify, I guess. I don't know, did you say that, John? For me, that would be really helpful if there's some delineation on that, or even when we discuss it.
So that will happen as we move forward, but we are beyond that now in this conversation on these ordinances, except for the one that I just put in front of you, and suggested you take a closer look at, which is the rear lot development to 6047. That's the only thing in there that is not being dictated by the state or has not been previously batted back and forth. Okay, we just don't have opportunity to do that now. These need to get to the council or it won't get done.
yeah, the rest of these have already been reviewed and approved by the planning board previously. That's the only new item that's in there. The next,
What about all this red lines, things that we received, that's already been approved?
Honestly, just don't have the opportunity to do that in a public forum. Again.
there has been a number of public hearings where we went through all that previously, that are online already. I'm cringing because I sat through them all. They are very long. So I know the information is out there and it's available. You'd probably be much faster going through it, sitting down with Nancy, than you would listening to us debate all of the changes. Because John could tell you, Chris can tell you, they were very long meetings when we went through these.
Yeah.
That's why I cringed when he said, go over the blue stuff again.
I thought it was all new. I thought this was new things that we were looking at
No,
when John
yeah.
said that. That's what I was thinking.
That's what I thought
New
too, but he was just talking about the gray stuff. When we get to the gray stuff to do it again, I was like,
Okay.
oh, God. Yes.
No.
So all the appendixes that you sent, we have no way to affect it other than approve, or, I mean, there's no discussion on that.
Next, and the 16th, yeah.
the most recent changes to the comprehensive permit process. Everything else.
Whoever's talking, please turn on the microphone.
I think you're still off.
Still not on, there it is. Most everything else is previously determined. The two things are the changes from 2025 for the comprehensive permit process, which returned the master plan possibility submission. And the rear lot development, okay, which has been changed in order to in order to complement and be consistent with existing zoning and existing development patterns in communities. The rear lot development provides you to be able to put a lot behind another lot as long as there's sufficient frontage. But there were a lot of reasons why that wasn't working. And these changes are meant to do a better job of that in terms of infill development, because this is what's being asked of us in terms of meeting housing needs. And it seemed like the simplest solution that we could possibly come up with as well to do that. So those are the two things that have not been discussed by this board previously. So I bring them to your attention so that you could look at them, okay?
So in summary,
So, yeah, as you're going through it and you're looking at it, if you have questions on stuff that's been changed, if you're looking at the proposed amendments here and you're looking at, the items as they're listed on the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance, and they're in blue, you can kind of scroll over and see it's already been approved by the planning board. So you can kind of see what the change was when it was approved. And if you get to any of these ones that are in gray, you'll see that, they're not going to be in that packet because they're not ones we're advancing to the council. And then the ones that Nancy just mentioned are the ones that, she's asking you to look at specifically.
so,
Yep.
so A, B, C, that's been handed out to us. A, B, and C are these zoning changes that came out in our packet that we got this week, that we're gonna deal with next week. We will take action, we will discuss them at our next meeting and potentially take action on them. Okay. So there may be changes at the next meeting to those if the board should decide after their review. But,
Mhm.
okay, yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, on this matter? Any other questions for the town planner on this? Or any other discussion? Okay, with that, next item of business on the agenda is the administrative officer's report, which. Okay, James, Assistant Solicitor for Planning and Zoning's report? Nothing to report on, all right. Item I, future agenda items and board questions. I have a question this evening, and I would like to ask my question to Mr. Gagne, if he could give us a quick update on last night's meeting with the town council and his report out on
And Mr. Devon was there. also.
on the memorandum that we provided on the bus depot.
Right,
that he's aware of
so,
it.
the council had gotten it previously, and last night was I don't know if it was the first meeting where you took any action on it, but they began having a further discussion on it in detail. So we reported on what the board went through and how we developed that. It was well received. There was some confusion. I think what came out of it was that the communication to the school committee needs to, we need to complete that loop. And although we don't report to the school committee, we need to ensure that they got the information and potentially we may go to if they request it. So there were two school committee members there. My statement to them was, we're very clear, we report to the town council. We provided the information to the town council, CC the town manager. The assumption was it would be moved on to them. So if they would need us to come there, that the chair of the school committee should speak with yourself and get us there. Other than that, I think it was a good discussion. And I think the town council understands, and I know the president does. He spent years and years and years dealing with water here. It's just a matter of, the only thing that new information for me that came out of it was, or reinforced, was that they hired Parry Engineering, I believe, to Par Engineering, to look at that site, to make recommendations, seeing if any mitigations can happen, or should it potentially be removed or whatever. So, early in the process, so conversations began, and that's it. Mr. Devine, anything to add?
Nothing really to add, other than I think that the discussion was healthy with everybody from the town council. Everybody understood, I think that, whether it was zoning, whether it was water, they're all fundamental, elemental pieces of a greater puzzle that need to be solved. I think people are also appreciating the fact that, exposure to the aquifer is a lot different than a gasoline spill or something like that. When you look at something like this and copious amounts of water possibly shedding, I think everybody latched on to that real quick. And if it wasn't already a very, very high level priority item, there was certainly a lot of ascendancy in some of the members that were really kind of getting a grip on the detail and bringing that detail forward. I think was really important, and it was well presented.
So the request we got was to give information, be able to answer questions. We did that, and we're good.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you both for your time last night and taking the time out of your lives to go up there and report out to the town council. Appreciate that. Any other future agenda items or board questions? I never have a question, so I'm very excited I got to ask a question tonight. Confirmation of quorum for our next meeting. Our next meeting is December 16th. It is a regular meeting at 6:00 p.m. We have a Service Street decision, CIP recommendation, review and possible recommendation to the town council on the zoning ordinance revisions. Is there anybody who will not be here on the 16th? All right, we will have a full house on the 16th. That is the last order of business that I have on the agenda this evening. Oh, we have one member of the public who would like to speak.
I just want to speak only because Derek sounded exactly like I did 2 years ago. So I just want to say a few things. I mean, it was like listening to myself. One thing I will say is I heard you ask all the right questions. The lowest class life the IRS recognizes for a depreciable asset is 3 years. So anything less than that automatically would be an expenditure or thrown into a maintenance or operational budget or whatever, but that was just part of it. Another thing I heard you say, well, you said a lot of things I liked. You were talking, question of the debt service, but another thing you mentioned was interest. And in the next level, I'm hoping the finance board has a different set of priorities. I like you guys having the priorities of water, sewer, but personally, $110 million, if I'm borrowing something at 5% or something's interest-free, my priorities change. So that will come in the finance board side. And I heard all your questions and I want to come up and take it easy.
One more thing, Mr. President.
Oh,
The
yes.
school committee, the tour of State Street School.
Oh, yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
On a Tuesday.
Yes. Okay. So let's take that up on the 16th and we'll figure that out. All right. That is the last item I have on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
So move. Right? That's all I have to say. Right, Morris? I did it right? Done. Time is 9:09.
Yeah, no second required, yeah. Oh.